All right, so we're back. We're at episode 92. Episode 92, people. Wine for the people. This is the happy hour, where for the next hour we will prove to you how little we actually take seriously wine. Literally take seriously ourselves. We take wine very seriously, but maybe it's a little bit questionable. Not tonight, because we're going to take wine very seriously tonight because we have an amazing guest to introduce you to, and this is. I'll have to admit, I haven't actually admitted this for any of our shows, 92 shows straight, okay? The individual sitting next to me I met an hour ago. I've read a lot about him. I've read a lot about all of his exploits and work, and I will admit, I am starstruck. And I'm sure. So I'm talking about. The humbleness makes me even more starstruck. I'm talking about Xavier Bizot. Now, Xavier is, as the name would imply, whose original homeland is France, but he's made his homeland Australia. Is connected, of course, to the Bollinger family in Champagne, but I would say also very much as importantly is connected to the Crozer family, but is a Bizot as well. And I think that's also very important. And I guess from a viticultural perspective and a wine perspective, someone that, in terms of a brand of everything that he's behind, really is one of those silent, humble achievers. And when I mean achievers, I mean like really achieving. Every single time I open up some of these wines, I actually get blown away with how wrong I often am. And that's actually a really good reason why I wanted to have you on the show. Guys, Xavier Bizot.
Thanks.
I'm
very humbled by the presentation. I don't deserve half or even a third of it.
No, what? We were talking before, and we I want to get straight back onto that topic because it was I stopped him after like half an hour. I was like, mate, you got to stop because we're going to save this for the people, because you were talking so passionately about a grape variety that I quite often find myself lambasting. I quite often find myself tearing down, and incorrectly so, I feel, because there's some of the things that you actually raise, things like seeing old examples of these wines, seeing old examples of Cabernet, to prove the nobility of a grape variety. I often miss that fact, but you're championing it.
No, there's a lot of wineries that have championed it, and the best ones and the top ones. And it's the second most widely read varieties planted in Australia, and it's planted mostly in the right regions for the variety, and it's just in a sense fallen out of fashion with a lot of people, because it's I think it's partly due to the lack of love from the winemakers towards this variety.
Fighting words!
They don't appreciate, and a lot of them actually despise it and saying that it's almost a weed because it's planted too much in Australia. But I think it's planted in Australia for one good reason, is that it's perfectly suited for our climate and also for our sunshine. It's a variety, the grapes have very thick skin so they can sustain some quite intensive sunshine, and it's actually quite resistant to drought. So as Shiraz in a drought year, if you don't have the right irrigation, will tend to have some very dried fruit flavors and overripe characters. And Cabernet will be able to sustain some levels of drought. And it makes beautiful wines in Australia, and it's not making, in most cases it makes very fine and elegant wine, probably in some cases finer than a lot of Pinot that are grown in regions that are a bit too warm.
I feel like you got thumbs up from Laura over here.
A hot take button.
Oh yeah, we need a hot take button. We feel like we're 5 minutes in, people, and we've got two rounds of fighting words going on. I like this.
Cabernet, as we were discussing, Cabernet Sauvignon is a variety that needs other varieties. It needs to be blended, and one of the best varieties to blend with Cabernet is Shiraz. And as I was explaining to you before, before Bordeaux became the home of the Cabernet Merlot blends, Bordeaux in the 17th and 18th and 19th century, early 19th century, was trying to figure out which were the best varieties. And at the end of the 18th century, all the first growth actually identified Cabernet Sauvignon as being the best variety for their estates. So Château Latour, Château Lafite, Aubryon, and all those. And actually tried to pull out all the other varieties, and they had, in Château Latour, there were wide varieties planted in the vineyards, and there
really?
there was
Sauvignon Blanc.
No, some unknown old varieties, field blended, because they didn't have,
field blended. Would you say that they could have been natural winemakers?
Well, I think at that stage they were all natural winemakers, and they were trying to grow out of it, if I can say that. And but basically, so they were at the end of the 18th century. Bordeaux was making Cabernet Sauvignon and exporting it, especially and mostly in the UK, which was their main market, London. And the wine merchants in London just realized that the wine was great, but it needed a little bit of oomph, a little bit of more flavor, more fruit in some years. And in those cases, in some vintages, they would add some Shiraz in the wine. So basically, Bordeaux...
Well, in Bordeaux, they would add Shiraz to wine?
No, in London.
In London?
They were Bordeaux was exporting the
bulk
barrels.
Wine. Yeah, barrels of wine.
The barrels of wine.
And these British people
and
were just...
don't
worry about it, we're just
going to... The
wine
merchants invented... I think they were the first modern winemakers in the world. The London wine merchants actually tasted and decided, well, need to tweak it with a bit of either Grenache from Spain or Hermitage Shiraz, and it was all very transparent. So
they were like, "Hey guys, we're just going to do this. You're right with that. Like, as long as you pay us, don't worry about it."
And they invented a name for it, which was the new Claret blend, and it was the wine of the fashion for probably 100 years. And I think the Bordeaux people didn't like that so much because they wanted to work on their terroir. They had some honesty.
So the French didn't like something that the English were doing?
They liked the money they were receiving, but they didn't like the fact that they couldn't. Actually, I think the thing that they didn't like is they couldn't. And it's very well documented in all the reports from the régisseur of the different domains at the time. They didn't like the fact that they couldn't make a good wine every year, and they were missing something. And they admitted sometimes, Cabernet was lacking. And it's funny that basically the Cabernet Shiraz disappeared off the shelves in the London wine merchant shops in the mid-19th century. And it's funny that it's at the same times that Merlot appeared in the vineyards in Bordeaux.
Oh, wow.
And so basically Cabernet Shiraz as a blend is older than Cabernet Merlot. So it's basically was the drink of the time for hundreds of years, or for 100 years. And so that's quite fascinating. And then you move 50 years to Australia, to Coonawarra, and John Reddock in the late 19th centuries was the first person to plant a big estate in Coonawarra, 350 acres of vines, and he planted half of it as Shiraz, and then a third of it as Cabernet. I think it's roughly and then two other varieties. And then basically that naturally the wines were made as blends from the two varieties plus a couple of others by the wine producers in Adelaide. They were making Cabernet Shiraz and made it for 50 years. And that's one of the emblematic blend of making that was Woodley's. And their wines are now selling for $20,000, $30,000 a bottle, the older ones. And they're just, I've never tasted them, they're apparently amazing wines. And that's a very strong history of Australia. And it's the thing is we believe in Australia that we're young and stupid, and we have the future.
No, we're not stupid, but you know,
not stupid. but we have the future ahead of us.
Yeah.
But there's an amazing history.
Yeah.
In winemaking, and in a sense, it's as old as the history of winemaking in France. It's not as prestigious.
Yeah.
There's not the prestige, but there's so much stories when you look in the books, the stories of Clare Valley, of Coonawarra, of all those regions, even the Hunter Valley, etc. It's a wealth of Daosa, of course, and Macdonald Vale. There's a wealth of history and good winemaking, making wines that are, in a sense, probably better than a lot of wines we are making in modern Australian times, and made naturally, in a sense, as well. Because
I'm interested to sort of tease out this concept of obviously, you know, history and tradition, because it's something that obviously, firstly, as a young person in the world of wine, we're quite easy to just jump on the bandwagon of don't worry about tradition, don't worry about history, we'll make our own movement. It's the rebellious movement of, I guess, the modern day,
which is great. I think it's a fantastic. You know, the world of wine, even in France, has to move, etc.
Yeah.
The thing I'm just saying is, even a lot of old wine drinkers try and kind of discount that history and think it doesn't exist, and that Australia is a new wine country in, you know,
it's not, it's actually
world.
quite old. It's quite established history.
For me, it's part of the old world of it. Should be classified as new world.
Let's get some wine into glasses, because I'm really interested to try this. This is obviously with a person with you know, a history and a background in Champagne. And Champagne was the first vintage that I ever did. It was the first place that I came to love wine.
Champagne has driven a lot of people to go into the wine business and wine production.
But this, of course, isn't champagne. It's sparkling wine.
So that's local. Sparkling. So it's local, and basically, a lot of sparkling wines were born out of the will of the winemaker to make a champagne. And for me, it's quite the opposite. I started making this wine realizing that we can make very unique sparkling wines in Australia that are not champagne. You know, in the modern world of sparkling at the moment, the sparkling wine is made everywhere and lots of different countries. And I think there are countries that have the same climate, like England has a similar climate to Champagne. Will never be Champagne because it's much.
But champagne, you'll never recreate champagne.
No,
champagne is champagne.
And for economical reason, the price of land is too expensive. For, you know, and there's never going to be the scale of champagne in England. Will always be relatively small. But Australia is a different game. We can use the same technique at Champagne, but not to make champagne, to make a much riper style of sparkling wine.
A little bit like Franciacorta, would you say?
I would say
a
that,
similar sort
but
of
even riper.
Yeah, right.
I think we can really make world-class sparkling wine, but not champagne. And we're still for this project. I mean, it's following the footstep of Crozer Sparkling, because we use similar fruit from vineyards that are very similar, and it's a very unique part of Australia. And I'd like to talk a bit about that, because Australia is considered as a warm country. When you talk to foreigners about Australia being cool climate,
not right now.
Just,
it's warm. It's really warm.
except a few places, Tasmania, I think, but also part of the Adelaide Hills. And at Adelaide Hills, it's funny, and it's all about the fashion. Just like Pinot Noir, everyone talks about Pinot Noir in Australia, which represent probably 4% of the plantings in Australia. Tasmania, everyone talks about Tasmania as being the future, etc. It's only 1,000 hectares planted. Adelaide Hills is 3,300 hectares.
Do you know there's more hectares planted in Queensland than there is in Tasmania?
Yes.
It makes no sense.
No, it doesn't. And I don't think there's a big potential to grow that much in Tasmania without clearing, which would be bad. And the thing is, when you look at the average temperature of Adelaide Hills, we're roughly in the same level as Tasmania. And Piccadilly Valley would be, which is part of the hills where we make our sparkling, is as cool as the coolest of Tasmania. But the difference is Adelaide Hills has water.
Yes.
Tasmania hasn't. Tasmania is very dry. Apart from a few cool pockets in the north of Tasmania, it's relatively dry. But it's probably cooler in some part than on average than the hills. But I think we've got in the Adelaide Hills, and I'm talking from my own shop here, so you have to take that into consideration. But I think the Adelaide Hills has actually even more potential than Tasmania to become the cool climate.
Now this is interesting. This is like this for me, and we were actually talking about this beforehand. And I've said multiple times on this show about, you know, we're looking about the appropriateness. No, you know, I don't like the term alternative varieties because they're just varieties. There's appropriate varieties and there's not appropriate varieties. And of course, you know, we utilize things like Cabernet and Shiraz, probably a little bit to too much, I guess, poetic license to be able to say, look, this may or may not fit. And the reason why I really like, you know, Xavier's perspective is because, you know, there are indeed many places in South Australia that can grow very, very great Syrah, very, very great Cabernet. Our argument was always that we vastly overestimate the truly great sites we have for those great varieties. That's not to say that there aren't great sites, and they haven't been established for a very long time. They have been. You know, we maybe look at most of the Riverland and its attempts at Syrah as maybe being not appropriate. But with what we've done with Unico, was to look at things like, you know, heat summation, degree days, you know, data. Now, I was taught this at university. And it came straight out of the book of Brian Crozer. This is we are not reinventing the wheel. This is literally it was Brian Crozer that actually not figured it out, but proposed something called the homocline model, which is what you're really talking about here, and that's why Adelaide Hills actually became like put on the map, and even to another degree is Fleurieu Peninsula, which is sort of like,
yes,
what the hell is Fleurieu Peninsula? No one really knows it, and when Brian was, I guess, pioneering even that area, people were kind of going, what is this madman doing? Why the hell is he going down there? And then I find out things like, hey, there could be volcanic soil down there. You know, we just like, and I've never actually met another winemaker that has managed to honestly hold a conversation about dirt as well as this man. And no, it's actually quite a surprising thing in this industry. We don't really talk enough about the soil. We worry so much about water use.
No, it's even worse than that.
It's worse than that.
The winemakers don't talk enough about the vineyard. They are disconnected from the vineyard. They 100%. don't 100%. understand, and they're still, and even some of the best ones are still trying to invent gimmicks about grape varieties, the way they make their wines, and whether they use leaf stirring or which kind of oak they use, etc., which is important.
But it's not that important.
The main thing is the vineyard. And the thing is, when we get, there are a lot of winemakers, my generation, middle age, who actually realize that, and I've heard that there's lots of stories of winemakers who are actually buying vineyards, and because basically that's where you get fine wine, is when you actually, there's several steps. There's a step that you said where you actually, and that's the start of the wine region, where you actually decide, well, look at the soil, look at the climate, and look at what they're doing in other countries. Maybe we can use this variety and it will work well.
And it's not just, when we say not just look at it though, you're really talking about getting into the data. You're really talking about actually really studying it.
But after that, that's just the start. That's 10% of the job done. If you want to get to fine wine, then you've got the time of 30 or 40 years where you actually have planted the varieties, you make wine, and you actually every year you decide that you have to change this and this in your vineyard management, in how it crops, and it's a long process. I mean, Thier's vineyard, Tapin Thiers vineyard, it's 40 years, and you get to the quality of the Terre vineyard, which I think is the best Chardonnay in Australia without any doubt. You get to the quality.
Hot take. Number 3. I love it.
It's
good.
It's basically,
and
it's
an
basically
it is an
that's
amazing
what
wine.
it takes, and it takes that from a person to actually follow every year trying to improve what he's doing and trying to understand, and that's what we're doing in our vineyard in Piccadilly for our sparkling. That's what we're doing in the southeast, and that's where you get fine wine. Terroir is a concept, and you cannot take man out of the equation, because it's actually
Correct.
most of but the person that understands that actually is there not to push his own opinion, but on the contrary, to try to understand how to manage.
So do you think this is the fallacy, and I say it with a loose term and a respectful term, but the fallacy of natural wine, that it tries to mitigate human interference. It tries to get rid of the impact of man or woman.
A lot of the natural winemakers, there are some very good natural winemakers in France that are trying to reduce, but once you want to make the best out of a vineyard, you always want to intervene to help, in the winery, to make sure that you make the best wine possible. Because in the end, we're in the business of making wine to make a good product. Yeah. And it's actually not highly profitable in France.
It's not one of those like you need to be operating at an astronomical level, especially in the case of marketing for it to. A lot of these people are still very much like farming.
Farming is
communities.
Extremely expensive, and it's a good effort. It's quite amazing, but you can also adopt the logic of the philosophy of basically trying to reduce your input in terms of in the vineyard, how you manage it, and for a very similar result. For instance,
tell us about this one though, because
for the natural reserve, we called it natural reserve because we don't have we age the reserve wine in barrel on no sulfur, so no sulfur at all for 1 year and 2 years.
It's probably easy to do because I imagine the pH of this must be really low.
So for sparkling wines, it's and we're starting to use the food as well, the French.
So
French oak.
big casks.
Big
casks.
Like
sorry,
you're doing for Nico
people may complain at home. We're talking about getting basic. Foudre or Botte Grandi in the Italians would say, or we just say BFBs in Australia. Big fucking barrels. Big casks that minimize the amount of oak impact, but maximize the amount of oxygenation of the wine. Incredible.
It's
this is amazing.
So that's Pinot Noir mostly, and with 18 or 19% Chardonnay. It's on the side label. So
I was going to say it's quite structured. It is quite structured.
We've got all the information on the side label. So when it was the percentage of varieties, when it was tirage, when it was disgorged, percentage of base wine, percentage of natural reserve wine.
So this is something that it may be controversial to ask, but you've got the words cépage, méthode, assemblage on here. Do you think it's
because I'm pretentious?
Cheers.
I'm a winemaker, so I have to be.
That's good. Honestly. So what would this be retailing for? What would this set me back? Like
$45. So.
Holy crap! I'd buy that every night of the week if I had that budget. But no, seriously, like this is vintage champagne quality.
It's good value, and it's. But the thing that there's a lot of elements in there that contribute to the value. First, the region, Piccadilly Valley, cool climate, but not so cool. Well, quite cool, not so cool. It's actually quite good sunshine hours compared to during the ripening season, but with low temperature. But the sunshine is actually bringing a lot of heat, so you got really nice fruit at harvest with a good acidity. So that's the first element that brings the quality. The second thing is the blend, so Pinot Noir and Chardonnay. The third thing is the reserve wine. The reserve wine bring all the complexity. The base wine is quite fruity, as I said, so quite nice and
sort of
primary
robust.
fruits.
Yeah.
And then the reserve wine brings a lot of complexity. You don't need much, like 20% is enough, or will go to 30% in some years, depending on the vintage. And then the third element is the yeast that we use in the secondary fermentation, which adds a lot of, which is a very good flocculating yeast, which adds a lot of
Bionis or
no, it's a special yeast which adds a lot of creaminess to the wine and elegance and not too much toastiness, so it really preserves the fruit.
It's actually like that. That is. And tasting this wine as well, for those guys that are playing at home that aren't on video, that are watching us via sort of, I guess, podcast. Daosa, is that pronounced correct?
Daosa.
Daosa.
Dedicated artisan of South Australia. It's actually the name of the...
That is so cool. Dedicated artisan of South Australia.
That's good.
Tasting this wine is actually incredible. Like if there's two things that I typically have an affinity for, it's typically champagne or other sparkling wines, and Barolo or other Nebbiolos. As you've found from watching these shows, creaminess as opposed to toastiness is actually a really accurate descriptor of this particular wine. It is definitely not toasty in terms of really sort of high-toned, what we call autolytics, so the breaking down of yeast, but creaminess, whether that's batonnage derived or whether that's obviously lees contact derived, that's so cool. And it's actually really interesting tasting this in reference to another sparkling region that I'm quite passionate about, which this resembles nothing of. This actually resembles closer to the profiles that I would associate with really fine champagne, as opposed to something like, if you haven't heard of it, Franciacorta, which is in the northern part of Italy. And they were really pioneered by two particular brands, Bella Vista and Car del Bosco, who thought that they could do a really great job making a riper version of champagne with specifically the champagne varieties. But they're much more primary, like much more primary. And in terms of toastiness, it's toasty. As opposed to this, which is this really sort of deft hand of yeast. And I think that's the one of the most amazing things with people that know how to make sparkling wine really well, is the ability to achieve this level of creaminess. It's like it's sort of making Chardonnay, okay, and trying not to over oak the crap out of it. So it's hard because it's so seductive.
Basically, the thing is, when you leave the wines in barrels on lees, you get some the creaminess. The reserve wine is quite creamy as well, but then the age, so 18 months on lees bottle is also critical to get that result. The thing I wanted to say as well is every single grape that goes into that wine is hand harvested, and we manage all the vineyards, so we don't buy any fruit for this wine. So we have control on the vineyards as well, which is critical to get the quality and to get the consistency every vintage. So we access lots of different vineyards that we manage in Piccadilly Valley, which are very different aspects, different altitude, different clones, different planting density, and
Can I just say as well, these glasses are probably the nicest glasses to appreciate sparkling wine from, and I don't mean that as just a throwaway comment. It's really hard to find glassware.
So we've designed those with Nick Mount, who's Nick Mount.
He's a South Australian.
South Australian, one of the best.
Did he do the ampule?
Yeah, he did.
So he did this $160,000 ampule for Penfolds.
So they're a bit cheaper. not by much.
That is so cool. These are amazing.
They're all hand blown, and you can go on our website and see the videos on how they were made.
Can they buy them directly from you?
Yeah, they can buy them.
Is this on the Terre?
On the Terre and Daosa website, which we're updating at the moment. And basically, the thing is, we wanted to use the blue color, which is the color for the brand.
Yeah.
But also the mold. It's actually been the mold for the cup has been done from. It has to be done fruit
You're gonna
trees.
say. I was going to say, you're not going to do like a whole Marie Antoinette's breast sort of dealio here because, you know, there's a problem there.
Unless they're from another planet. So,
no, but the shape's actually amazing.
So the wood we had to cut. We had a very old apple tree in our vineyard, which needed to be cut. So we actually cut the wood. You need to use green timber. For the molds for the glass making, and so it's coming from our vineyard, so it's a good story. But they're great glasses. We've actually designed the form with Nick to actually retain. So you need a narrow, but not too narrow, a narrow bowl, and you need to have that to preserve the aromas.
Yeah, you need to sort of bring it like taper it in a little bit, but it's not too tapered that it becomes so in your face that you actually can't get over the carbonation. This is as close to as I've ever seen a perfect sparkling glass that I've ever experienced. Only because like you've actually got enough bowl. Like a lot of people realize that champagne flutes are like, hey, they're good, they're great, they're fine, but they're not awesome.
Hate the champagne flute.
Yeah, the flutes you can't smell, you can't appreciate the sparkling wine. Whereas like I typically opt for just a normal stem glassware, but you end up losing so much of the mousse, you end up losing so much of the aroma, whereas that's a dream. That is like everyone needs that. And I tell you what, Mr. Rydell, Maxwell, if you're watching, you need to absolutely make a glass in this style. You should pay this guy a fee though, because he figured it out before you.
So for this wine, the base wine is 17, which was a cooler year.
Of course.
We're gonna disgorge very soon the 18. But we've got 3 magic vintage from this wine, which I can't wait to disgorge. The 18, of course, which was a riper, so I can't wait to see what it will be like. We're gonna do that in the next few weeks. And then the 19 and the 20, and especially the 2020. It's a vintage that has been discounted because of the bushfires and for a reason, and also because of the drought in some regions, etc. But some beautiful wines will be made in Australia from 2000.
It's interesting actually you note that as well, because we know from being trained in the classics that even good or bad vintage, irrespective, the great sites are the great sites. And if you're making wine consistently from the great sites, then you're going to be able to achieve incredible wine.
It's a very strange, it's a very strange vintage to explain, because everyone has it in his mind, in their mind, the bushfires, so the warms, but basically that happened in December, so that was before Veraison. But after Veraison happened in January, and then we had February, March, April, so it happened late January, early February. The time between Veraison and harvest was mild, very cold.
It was. No, it was.
And so we had...
Yeah, it was freezing.
So
it was so good. It was amazing.
We had basically a very low crop, because we had some rain early December, which interfered with fruit set, so we had the low crop to start with, and then we had that very cool ripening season. So it was the recipe for
brilliant
magic.
Wines, actually, amazing wines. So I'm gonna hit the getting basic term again, because for those that are playing that who aren't wine professionals, there is a term that Xavier just used that I actually haven't actually used before. We haven't actually defined this term before. It's an awesome term. Veraison. What is Veraison?
So Veraison is when the grapes, when they form, they're just very green, just like vegetal, very hard. And Veraison is when the tissues of the grape start to soften, and so it becomes a fruit, and then
starts to flesh out, doesn't it?
Yeah,
and it changes color typically.
So it stops. It's fleshing out, but it stopped. The cell division stops, and then it just grows, but with more water, and that's why it softens, and that's why we've been lucky in the hills. We were talking about smoke taint before. Smoke taint is only a problem for grapes that are affected after Veraison.
Yeah.
Because after Veraison, the skin actually develops some
pores, essentially.
Yeah, which actually capture some of the chemicals in the smoke. But before that, it's just
It's just
get washed off
just
with
like
the
a
rain.
leaf. Yeah.
So a lot of vineyards, we were Piccadilly Valley was, and we were very lucky this year. We were away from the fires and also from the winds that brought the smoke. So we had no smoke tank. But even in the regions around here that had a smoke, a lot of the vineyards will make good wines.
Honestly, we have not even noticed liquor smoke in literally anything, and it's actually really interesting. We started a cooperative based on the last bushfire that came through, and a lot of the smoke taint that we saw, which we never saw in those wines either. So, if there are winemakers watching this and you have a wine in your cellar that has smoke taint, please send me a sample. I'll pay you for it. I actually just want to know what it looks like, because I've not seen it in any of our wines. Laura's seen it before in working up in Eden Valley sort of years ago, but I don't even know what it looks like, because we haven't even seen any of it at all. I'm quite surprised that other people are quick to jump at it. But jumping straight onto the comments, sorry guys, I know it's been about half hour. Yuko chimed in with the first comment, at least on our end. Thank you so much. Kerry Carter, Sue Bond. Lachlan George, amazing guest. Dinner break is finished, back to work. I'll be sure to catch up later. Nick Dugmore, best Sauvignon Blanc and Sparkling in the game. Well done. Max Mason, Xavier B, Rockstar Neighbor, thank you very much. Ruth Neves, hi guys, hello. Same to you, Christina. Pinot Noir in Queensland, why? Just why? Granite Belt is pretty cold. Granite Belt's a really interesting spot, primarily because it's got such high elevation. Watch that rainfall though. The rainfall's a little bit tumultuous there. It's more about, and it's not just about rainfall amounts. It's good and great to see rainfall amounts, but you need to see rainfall timing as well to be able to see what's applicable and what's not in that area. I do think Pinot Noir in Queensland and Granite Belt, I would love to be proven wrong, but I think that would be tough. Who did he say has the best Chardonnay? He said his vineyard has the best Chardonnay. It's called the Tears Vineyard. Forgive me, it was Tappa Napa. Tears Vineyard Chardonnay. It is an amazing vineyard. I have seen it before, and it's an amazing spot.
It's not the best Chardonnay. I'm just a good salesman. That's all. or pretending to be.
Rebecca Dugmore, those glasses are beautiful. I love Nick Mount's work, and I completely and utterly agree with you. But we've got some Sauvignon Blanc in the glass that I want to talk about, but we're halfway through the show. We are jumping to blind tasting, and Xavier's brought an amazing wine for us. I mean, I don't know if it's amazing yet. I haven't tried it yet, but we shall see. We shall see.
It's funny.
I think. So, for those that couldn't hear, Laura just said, sitting in the background here, given the first half hour of the show, I think it's a fair chance this is probably going to be a pretty amazing wine, and I am. I agree.
So it's a blend. I'll tell you.
Okay,
I'll tell you
very
which blend
kind.
it is, but
Okay.
it's never been. I couldn't find anyone who's made it anywhere. It's a funny blend to make. I won't make it again. So.
Yeah, I had to double check this when I read it. I was like, really?
Okay, well, I'm going to put the comments down so Noah's going to let you know what's up. Have you ever played the options game before?
No.
No? Noah, would you like to play for us?
I'll play options.
Okay, firstly,
red wine or white wine?
I believe this is a white wine based on the, it's almost like a petroleum sort of dealio. It feels like a textural white with a bit of age. And in fact, there was someone that was chiming in on Monday's show, talked about oily white wine. This is case in point. Oily white wine. It's beautiful, but not held down. It's not oily as in that heavy, but it's kind of got that really cool lanolin thing going on and really nice acidity. Really nice vanillin sort of undertones, not overtones, that don't imply like a lot of barrel work, that are just like really quite they're really quite pretty. But are we white?
Yes.
Yeah, we're white.
So you're
We are
still
white.
in the game.
We are white. Oh, cool. We're still in the game. We're still playing.
We're still
All right.
playing the game.
Okay.
Is this New World or Old World?
Okay.
I just told you. So.
Did you?
Yeah. No, I didn't.
Don't
okay.
worry. In one ear, out the other. It's fine.
Okay. Tough, man. Tough. Like, this smells, and also all the makings of really amazing old world wine, but the acidity is a bit odd for old world wine. I think. What are you guys laughing about?
Nothing.
I just think
Yeah, I just.
I have absolutely no idea. I have no idea.
chance to find it.
Okay. Okay,
It's gotta be fun.
It's I'm gonna say it's New World based on acidity. Just it's a little bit lower acidity for the fruit weight. Really sublime, like really sublime wine. This is fun. This is really quite something else. Is it New World?
Yes.
Yeah, it's New World.
This is hard.
So shall we ask?
I've only tasted it just then, and it's wild.
It's so cool.
Is this from New Zealand? Is this from South Africa? Is this from Australia?
It's Australia based on like.
Yes.
It is? Yeah, okay. Yeah. I was just like based on, again, it's acidity. If it was from New Zealand, the acidity would be higher for the fruit weight, and there's just not a disparity. It's not disjointed. It's really well married. It's a really well crafted wine. It's just, it just sits in a feel that tells me fruit ripeness, primary fruit, bit of age. I'm really impressed with the elevage on this. This is really cool. This is fun. Cool.
Alrighty, is this from South Australia? Is this from Western Australia? Or is this from Victoria?
Not Victoria, it's either WA or SA. Only because, again, fruit ripeness, richness.
Some vintages of Yarra Valley.
Some, yeah.
Last couple of years.
No, because it's not vegetal. It's so... Whoever's picked this, like, as in picked the grapes, have picked at the right time. There's none of this, like... Pick a little bit early, pick a little bit late.
Yeah.
But like no. We get like this has been like a commitment. This is a steadfast winemaker. It's like I know what I'm fucking doing.
It's an average.
It's an average
of picking.
It is okay.
So how should we do the grape varieties? Should we?
I've got an idea. I've got an idea.
It's SA. It's SA.
It's South Australian.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So
Wow.
we're gonna go to. So it's a blend.
How can you just tell me how many grapes in the blend?
There is 2 grape varieties in the blend.
Okay.
It's pretty much 50-50.
Okay.
But if we're being semantic, it's 58% and 42%.
Okay. Pretty shitty.
I'm gonna give you 5 options. You've got to give me 2.
Okay.
All right. Okay. Sauvignon Blanc. Chardonnay. Grenache. Cabernet Franc.
Wow. Okay.
Just chuck in one more. What's my 5th one?
No,
Roussan.
No double.
Piano.
I think you red herringed me, and I think Roussan's in this. And I would say Sauvignon Blanc because of the lanolin.
Yep.
Aged Sauvignon Blanc looks like lanolin. I think this is a really great example of showcasing what Sauvignon Blanc can do. It breaks all the bounds of what Sauvignon Blanc can do, but I think it's a really cool kind of like, hey, fuck you, I'm gonna make amazing Sauvignon Blanc, and this is what it can do. And I think it's a textural variety. So what were the other options again? Sorry, there was...
Chardonnay.
Yeah, I think it's either Chardonnay or Roussan.
Pick one.
Because I think you can only achieve this level of fruit ripeness with the pristineness of acidity that this has in the hills. So I'm gonna go Chardonnay. So I'm gonna go Sauvignon Blanc Chardonnay.
All right. Next step. You got 50% of that, right?
Great.
You got the Sauvignon Blanc, right?
Oh, great.
It's not Chardonnay.
It's not Roussan?
It's Cabernet Franc.
What the fuck? Okay.
So the next fun one is this is a multi-vintage blend. Multi-region blend.
Okay.
So this is from 2 different regions.
Okay.
I'm going to do the same thing with region.
Okay.
Adelaide Hills, McLaren Vale, Clare Valley, Rattenbully, and Coonawarra.
Fuck you, this is your wine.
Amazing.
Really? Is it? No, it's Terre, Sauvignon Blanc, Cabernet Franc and Rattenbully.
So the only person
Adelaide Hills Rattenbully.
The only person I've heard doing a blend of Cabernet Franc Sauvignon Blanc is Ravenswood, but in a red blend.
Yeah.
So he made a Cabernet Franc. He added a bit like they do with with Shiraz Viognier, so he's adding a bit of Sauvignon Blanc. And we've made it once, and the reason we made it is I had a vineyard that we managed for the first time, which had a few rows of Cabernet Franc in Piccadilly. And well, it was a cool year. No, it was actually a warm year. It was 18, but the Cabernet Franc was very big crop.
Yeah.
So there was no way I was gonna ripen it enough for red. So we basically decided to harvest it a bit early to make a white wine. And then at the same time, I was harvesting Sauvignon Blanc late harvest, which I wanted to keep for botrytis, but it didn't get there. So basically, we made a late harvest Sauvignon Blanc with an early harvest Cabernet Franc. Blend everything in the barrel and see.
This is an amazing wine. It's an amazing wine. That is so cool.
What I find the most fun about it is that the Sauvignon Blanc's from Rambouillet, and then the
it's completely switched. Yeah, okay. Rattenbully's the giveaway because you've made Rattenbully like a thing.
Yeah.
Like Brand Rattenbully basically is you.
No.
Or is you guys in Tapenabra as well?
It's a lot of very good wineries. In Rattenbully, including Penfolds and other big wineries. Casellas are making some very good wines from down there, but they're blended. But Rattenbully is north of Coonawarra. It's slightly warmer. It's very similar soils as Coonawarra, just older limestone, and always been used by Coonawarra producers in their wines. You know, there's very good wines made by Yalumba in their vineyards in Rattenbully. There's good wines made by a lot of producers. And we've got a small vineyard which was planted close spacing, 1.5 meter by 1.5 meter in Rattenbully, 8 hectares. We've got 4 varieties: Sauvignon Blanc, Cabernet Franc, Shiraz, Cabernet Sauvignon. And so that's, you know, we've been planting this vineyard and then looking after it for the last 15 years. And seeing how good the wines are every year and better the wines are every year compared to the previous year. So we can jump to the Sauvignon Blanc.
Well, before we do, I just got to ask this question because I've just noticed something on the back label. And sometimes, like, really well written back labels, you'll notice something. And this kind of blows my mind a little bit, man. 280 cases of 6 produced of this. Okay, and I'll just point out the fact that it says Rattenbully White. You know, and this is really something that I really find fascinating in Australia. We see things like blends as being lesser value. We see things like blends as being bulk things. And
it's the contrary. That's one of the other things. Like Cabernet, it's the opposite. Blends are the best. I mean,
it's so cool to
it's
get
the best thing. It's the best thing. And I think, you know, you need to add a bit more wine. A single variety can be, and that's the story that I'm going to tell about the red wine.
But there's 2 pallets of this. There's nothing of it.
No,
280 cases of 6. That's 140 dozen. That is literally like
that's the fruit we had from
2
those
pallets
and some change.
And some change, and like a little bit. That is.
It's almost sold out. It was it was mostly on trade, so it's not even on our website. It's just a funny thing to do. We'll do some wines like that every year. It's good
to see the experimentation. It's really good to see, like, because the temptation of a person with the resources to be able to do this with the winery and the vineyards, and taking it not flippantly, but like taking it very seriously. As you know, it's so easy just to turn the water on to be able to get high yields and to be able to like bang out. You could easily bang out 700, 800, 900 cases if you wanted to of something like this, but you don't.
No, we couldn't because the block of Cabernet Franc is very small in the Piccadilly Valley, and and the Sauvignon Blanc is
so honest. It's so good.
No,
it's such a refreshing thing.
We don't do this for the volume and. Just do this because
for the love. All right, let's jump onto the Sauvignon Blanc. Let's have a gander because Sauvignon Blanc.
So Sauvignon Blanc,
you know,
the vineyard in Rattenbully is just stunning. You like it?
No. Yes.
Yes. What's wrong then?
It says 2019.
Okay.
Yep. No, because I read something. Was it on here?
18.
Yeah. No. I just thought it was a really old vintage, and I was like, oh, like 2012 or something. And I was like, no, 2012.
2012. It's a gift for you.
Oh wow!
It's to show you that what we're doing with Sauvignon Blanc. Sauvignon Blanc is that's another thing. Is Sauvignon Blanc in Australia is considered, and because of New Zealand, they're to blame.
Yes.
New
No.
Zealanders
Yeah.
Establishing a style of Sauvignon Blanc that everybody has to like.
Very minimalist style.
And very grassy but basically Sauvignon Blanc. Some of the most expensive white wines in the world are Sauvignon Blanc.
Yeah, well, they are. Like,
Bordeaux.
Yep, absolutely.
One of the most expensive white wine in the world is Haut-Brion Blanc.
Haut-Brion Blanc. Yeah, absolutely.
It's close to $2,000 a bottle. It's probably more expensive than Canton Charlemagne and.
But even if you look through all of Loire,
and it's sold out in a flash. Anyway, Sauvignon Blanc is a serious variety. It's not taken seriously because a lot of people are growing it like weed. Lots of weeds, like very.
Well, let's face it, they found a really great way to be able to high yield it, to be able to do QA23 yeast, which is like nice and high and aromatic, bang it out with high scale and get it in at a price point. And that's what sort of like kind of ruined it a little bit for a lot of people because it's a noble grape variety. It's a really, really beautiful grape variety.
Basically, when I had this view of Sauvignon Blanc, like everyone else, until I tasted some of the top Sancerres and went to see Pascal Cotta, who's got 2 hectares in Sancerre and who's making some of the best white wines in the world. And went to see him, and we tasted some wines, and he pulled out some wines that were 25, 30 years old, which were just amazing. It was fresh and fruity and complex and elegant and citrusy. And so I decided that basically my view on Sauvignon Blanc was wrong. Good. And then, so we planted, we've got 2 hectares of Sauvignon Blanc as well in the Terre vineyard, and decided to try and emulate what he's doing, which is late ripening, so not very late, but harvest when all the grain characters are gone, which is a crime for a winemaker of Sauvignon Blanc in the hills. He would be fired the next day, because that's exactly the opposite.
Number 4.
It's the opposite of what you would try to do for New World Sauvignon Blanc, crisp, fresh. But we harvest basically beyond. So we harvest at slightly higher Beaumet. So some years we got in 19 we got 13%, but in other years we can get to 14%. Right. But we get some nice fruity, very fruity juice to start with. And fermentation in demi-muid, 600 liters.
Demi-muid is bigger than Punchin, so 500. When you see these things, they're kind of like
600 liters, so 3
really
barrels.
Fat barrels.
So very large barrels, and they're very good for white because you got a very low surface to volume ratio.
Correct.
So they're very not too much oak extraction, and so
they're also horrendously expensive.
No, because you keep them for 20 years.
And that's the thing. It's like for people at home that want to, like, you're buying clothes. It's the cost per wear. Spend a little bit more. You can stretch it out for longer. That's the thing.
And it lasts forever. It's just like your food.
Well, that'll be like 100 years, man. No worries.
Good pair of Levi's.
Good pair of Levi's.
So basically, Pascal Cotta in Sancerre, he's got his demi-muid, has had them for 40, 50 years. So
we even look at like cider producers that do that. They've got 100-year-old German
there's a microbiology in those barrels that's there and doesn't add any yeast. We add yeast for fermentations. So fermented and aged in oak, and then we don't do batonnage. We just leave the wine settle on lees, and then we bottle with a light filtration, and that's it. So we also go the opposite way in terms of managing the vineyard. It's all hand pruned, hand harvested, and so close spacing vineyard planted with Australian clones of Sauvignon Blanc, so clones that have been here for 200 years or 150 years, and we also bunch thin, so we reduce the yields to get to around 7-8 tons per hectare. And because the Sauvignon Blanc at those densities we crop to
it's like
much
2.5
higher.
ton an acre. That is like red wine.
That's how you get that concentration and that elegance, and that's
it's crazy.
the 19th for me is the first vintage where I'm seeing the potential of that vineyard going forward. The previous, you'll see the 12 is amazing, but it's still very Sauvignon Blanc.
This
Right,
is like if
fine
passion
wine.
fruit tasted like a velvet.
Yeah. All right. Well, we have 5 minutes, and I really want to make sure that we give you the option to be able to play your own blind tasting game. And I want to talk about the Cabernet. So we have 5 minutes to do that. So let's get some Cabernet in glasses. And we have 3 wrapped up bottles behind you that I don't know what they are. You don't know what they are. So take your pick.
So we've talked about Cap Shiraz blends. Just we have 3 varieties in that vineyard: Cabernet Franc, Cabernet Sauvignon, Shiraz. And in 2018, I was making the varieties as single varietals, so one Cab Sauv, one Shiraz, one Cab Franc. And in 2018, decided that was we made also a couple of blends, and always realized that the blends were better. So in 2018, decided to make the Cab Sauv Shiraz for the first time.
Yeah.
And it's 62% Cabernet Sauvignon, Shiraz 37, there's 1% of Cab Franc. So the way we make those wines, we're talking about the food, we use barriques, partly new, for the first 6 to 8 months, 9 months. Then we rack the wine off lees and age in old foudre. So the foudre now for this wine are 3-4 years old. So there's not a lot of oak characters. And so it's a very good to integrate the new oak, and it's Cabernet Shiraz in the mind of people is a very big, bold style, but this is not. It's very elegant. It's a claret.
The thing that like firstly, the aromatics on this.
Yes.
Are incredible. You can smell this thing for hours. It's just blue fruited Cabernet, ripe, proper Cabernet. But the thing that's so impressive for me is actually the balance of tannin and the structure of tannin. This, you know, Noah was talking about velvet just before on the Sauvignon Blanc, but this is quite literally like rubbing velvet on your teeth. This is insane. It's really hard as a winemaker to be able to get tannin so full and so predominant as this, but actually have it in the form of what it is. This is probably on the show, I'm gonna say this is the most appealing tannin I've ever seen in a red wine. In 92 episodes, I would happily say that.
Because it's the right variety planted in the right place. It's got nothing to do with the winemakers.
That's incredible.
It's a very it's the fruit from the vineyard. And the only thing, we're talking about blends. The only impact that winemakers, especially now that the technology about winemaking is so widely shared, the only influence of winemakers is the blending. It's the same in Champagne. I mean, where they decide the quality of the vintage, or that's when they do the assemblage, and it's the same for it. But the most fun part of the winemaking is when we do the tasting, because we make all those varieties separate, and then we decide. At the end, the top wine, I already know the percentage, so halfway through before we blend the wine in the foudre, the reserve. But all the other wines, we blend the reds, the 2 wines we make, which is the Cabernet Franc Shiraz and the Cabernet Sauvignon Shiraz, we decide at the end of aging. And that's the fun part, is to actually do the blends and decide how much Shiraz we put, how much.
So how much would that set me back usually? What's the retail on this?
Same as the reserve, the natural
in a
reserve,
heartbeat.
So
there's a few months left of winter that yes, in a heartbeat. Yeah. I have the opportunity to say nothing, but I'm going to say something. Yes, in a heartbeat. You should. This is an amazing example.
And get a few bottles and put it some
down.
later.
Yeah,
like
this
10,
has
10
some
plus.
So we moved
10 plus years.
We moved to Screw Cap, which was both a logical decision to make because the wine is sold mostly in Australia, but also financial because cork is more expensive.
Cork's
As
very
you know.
expensive. Yeah.
I would like to bottle that on the cork, but
Yeah.
I think it's still going to be okay. We bottle our top cuvée on the cork, so the reserve.
Yeah.
But this wine we bottle on the Stervin. It needs to breathe, but we've seen some of our past Cabernet with bottled on the screw cap and they've evolved quite nicely.
That's insane. All right.
Tells a lot about Cabernet Shiraz. Should be made more in this country. We should try.
We'll give it a crack. But speaking of giving things a crack, grab a bottle off the back wall here. It's completely like I don't know what they are, so it's all up to you.
There you go.
Noah, we're gonna do some. Yeah. We've got like an ongoing little thing about will the guest choose the one in the middle or the one closest to them or the furthest from them? You just earned Noah $10. I don't know what it is. But
there's a cork, so it's probably French.
It could be. Didn't I gave? Oh. Ha ha ha. Had I done my job, Noah would have had it already. Jumping on the comments, I have a few bottles of the Crayere 2016 CS under cork.
Yep. So that's the last vintage we did of the Cabernet on the cork.
Yeah, and honestly, Jane, you would seriously appreciate this. This is
and especially the 2016 we bottled with a cork that has been tested for TCA. So there's no.
It's like selection.
So it's guaranteed.
Yeah.
It's guaranteed no TCA.
That's and it's one of those that we use.
16 will age forever.
It's obviously with enough ripeness and enough richness and enough density and whatnot.
It was a great vintage.
All right. So we're going to play a bit of blind tasting. So we shall see how we go. And if it's anything to go by, 90% of the time I get it wrong.
Yeah.
It's just it's just a bit of fun. All right. So I know I'm chewing into Applewood and Henry's time, so I apologize. But ooh,
red wine or white wine?
I'm going
white.
Yeah, white. I'm going straight into white. It's really like you were talking about toasty before. This is an example of toasty with yeast. Like there is a lot of toasty characters here. Toasty white could be, Italian.
It's Italian.
Yeah, you reckon? Yeah. Like there's a rusticity to it. It could be Italian, Spanish, but I think Italian is pretty accurate. I'm putting my comments down. So, but I don't think I've seen a lot of French wine like this. French was a lot more like they would stray away from this sort of thing. But there's an elegant horse really prancing, and then there's the there is nice. the taureau. That's just galloping. There's.
Well, so you guys are saying Italian white?
I'm saying white.
White.
I'm saying white. No,
yeah,
I'm leaning towards it.
If I could smell a red wine like this, someone hit me up. No, it's white wine. New World or Old World?
Old World.
Old World.
This is Old World.
Yeah.
Let's go to Classic Trinity, France, Italy, Spain.
The Classic Trinity, France, Italy, Spain. Poor old Germany.
For the game.
For the game. Don't hate the player, hate the game. All right.
Italy.
I agree. I think Italy as well. Something about tannin extraction that Spain probably wouldn't run through.
This is from France. Oh.
Heresy. It's from France. Okay.
Oh my God.
Okay.
Wow. Jeez, where could that be from? It's a tannic white. And it's not sort of...
No, I know. Yeah, no, it is French. Yep. So, next question.
Yes.
All right, here we go.
It is French.
Here we go. Okay.
Alrighty.
I'll see where it can be from.
Is this from the Loire?
No.
Don't tell me. I'm excited by this. This is blowing my mind right now.
Is this from Is this from Jura? Is this from Burgundy?
I guess I can over-extract it over to Berg. Or it could be like a. I just think if it's gonna be Jura, and it's seen like a degree of oxidation, like it's aged underfloor or something like that, aged ullaged,
Could be Jura.
then perhaps. But I mean, I would have
Jura
thought
wines
that.
that aren't, oxidized or aged.
Could be Loire.
I'm going Loire. I'm going Loire Shannon. I'm vibing on Shannon.
You might be right. Yes.
My guts kind of sending me to Shannon. I know with this game, gut is everything. So I'm going Shannon Loire.
I agree.
You have both fallen into my trap.
Oh no!
This is Burgundy.
Oh no! What? Is this some weird twisted aligote from Berg?
That's it.
Surely, like if that is Chardonnay, I'll eat my hat.
Is this Aligote or Chardonnay?
Aligote.
It's aligote.
This is Chardonnay.
Oh no! What? This is seriously extracted. What is going on here? This is incredible. This is a very interesting wine. It's a very thrilling drink. It's honestly, it's like drinking
Really,
white
really
Nebbiolo.
nice.
It's
It's
weird.
really nice.
Yeah.
It's only 13%.
No, it's not the alcohol content. It's the tannin.
Like tannin, like I actually haven't.
It's
tasted it. I just smelt it and was like, I got this.
full blown red wine like tannin. I'm quite surprised.
It's very short though.
It is very short. Maybe it's like a natty sort of burgundy. This is kind of but it's like oxidative burgundy shard that seems like it's like munching into an apple or a pear
But
that's
it's
a little
really,
bit
It's
underripe.
a really
It's
nice drink. I really
like,
like
it's a fun drink.
Yeah.
It's quite refreshing.
It's
how short it
refreshing.
is.
It's
Yeah.
not very complex, but it's I like it.
Yeah.
Alrighty.
Enjoyable.
Do you want to go vintage?
You go ahead.
16,
Might as
17,
well.
18.
I'm gonna go 18 because it seems fresh.
17.
17.
Oh, at least I got something. Save the day.
What is this? What is this song? This is incredible. What the hell is it?
It's from a mate, John O'Hersey, down at the French White Centre.
John O'Hersey, Domaine Alain Chauvier.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with this estate at all?
Not at all.
This is Puligny Montrachet.
Puligny Montrachet. Well, it's not a cool little natty thing. It's a Puligny Montrachet.
it's a
Surely.
Chardonnay.
It's a Chardonnay. It's a Bourgogne.
It's a blend of. It's not a Puligny Montrachet.
But maybe the estate might be based in Puligny Montrachet.
Yeah, agreed. Correct, actually.
That
Some
is,
nice-
look, it's good and fun. I am surprised with the tannin on that. I am like,
I would still
I'd still go.
rate it Italian.
Yeah, in a heartbeat. No, honestly, in a heartbeat. Like, I
Maybe
don't.
it is.
I don't. I don't see any fault in that. All right, guys, we have definitely run over time.
It's a really nice drink.
It is definitely a fun drink.
Yeah.
I would look.
So when you've got Bourgogne Chardonnay, it's a lot of the time the Chardonnay can come from the warmer part
Like
of
Mâconnais or-
Mâconnais or
Yeah.
Côte Chardonnays.
That
and-
definitely feels this way. This
and,
feels like last Monday's Mâconnais. This feels very in the same sort of vibe. I could have also guessed that, but I decided on Italy.
And the Washington.
And watch Shannon. Guys, thank you so much for chiming in. We're going to be back Monday. Stay tuned, obviously, for Applewood. Keep in mind that Henry is based in Victoria, and we would definitely appreciate any support that you have for our lovely Victorians and what Henry's about to chime in with. He's going to do. He's going to be very entertaining. Xavier,
Thank you.
thank you so much for.
cheers.
Cheers. And of course, Noah, thank you very much for producing tonight.
Thanks, Noah.
Hot takes.
Well done.
Very much appreciate it. Live audience, Alicia, and of course Laura, and now Richard. Of course, thank you very much for chiming in. And of course, every single one of you, honestly, we appreciate all the support that you offer us. Guys, stay tuned for Applewood, but for now, we are about to chime out, and we'll be back on Monday. Actually, no. We're gonna be back tomorrow. Cheese for the People, episode 1. Literally, the inception Cheese for the People. We're gonna do some really fun stuff. Trust me. It's gonna be really interesting. We will catch you tomorrow. Ciao.
for fun's sake, here we go. Oh my god, I'm loading up the chat. Hello everyone, oh my goodness gracious me. Welcome, 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 we are live. It is Wednesday, or hump day, as the Americans like to say. Do Scottish people like to say hump day?
No, hump means something pretty different for us.
Yep, okay, yeah, fair enough, yeah, that's for real. So welcome, I hope you're having a fantastic Wednesday, no matter where you are. Hello to everyone on Instagram, hello from Italy, my man, good to see you. Hello to
awesome.
Emma, hello to Peter, hello to Jimmy, hello to Katarina, hello Sarah. I hope you are having a sensational day. Sarah is from Drinks Melbourne, does a wonderful job.
Nice to meet you.
Looking after all of us hospo peeps hanging around town who are sadly locked inside. Hello to Kirsten, hello Stuart. Guys, so excited. My God, tonight we have from behind the bar, her very own YouTube channel, and it's stunning. That is where I first met Cara Devine, who is our wonderful teacher about sherry this evening, which is, in my opinion, super cool because I don't know a lot about sherry, but you freaking do.
Well, you seem pretty excited about it though, so I
No,
feel like
I'm
we're
really
gonna
stoked.
get on fine.
Oh no, this is gonna be real. I'm super stoked. Like this is gonna be so much fun because sherry for me was like the first thing I got drunk on besides Grand Marnier.
Yeah,
And I-
right. I thought you were gonna say like most people are like, oh, you know, my grandmother drank it or whatever. I don't
Yeah.
really think of like drinking it. I mean, obviously in Scotland we have buckfast, which is a
Oh,
whole other
yes,
fortified
that
wine.
But that's the thing, you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah.
Oh, it's so good. Hello to Sam. Sam from McHenry is joining us. Thank you so much, Sam. You're an absolute legend, my man. By the way, the Federation Gin is off the charts. So if you're a fan of that kind of stuff, please give it a go. Hello, Izzy. Good to see you. Hello, Connor. An absolute pleasure to have all of you. So we're going to deep dive into sherry this evening. But before we do that, we've got a shot already.
We do.
Already prepared.
I'm pretty intrigued about this one.
Yeah. So I've been oh man, I've been trying to develop the new age espresso martini for the discerning drinker. That was a fucking mouthful. But I've been trying to develop this whole
I
idea.
suggest like a better actual
Yeah,
cocktail
I know,
name.
yeah, exactly. Exactly. And like again, a better cocktail name I should probably come up with. But for this, this shot is actually called A Long Day's Journey into Night. Which I thought was pretty
That's
good.
so poetic, man.
It's named after one of my favorite plays.
I
by
just didn't even think that you could read from our interaction so far.
Yeah, that's fair enough. So what we got here is 20 mils worth of Carter's oaked coffee liqueur and then 10 mils of Manzanilla sherry with an orange blossom water rim and salt. And we're going to see whether this works. Because I tried it earlier and I was like, oh yeah, this is nice. But we'll see what you think.
Yeah.
So here we go. A long day's journey into night. Cheers. Thank you for
Cheers.
joining me this
Thank
evening.
you
You're an
for having
absolute
me.
legend. Cheers to everyone at home. Let us know what you're drinking this evening. We always love to hear.
That's delicious.
Yes! It's official!
Genuinely was not necessarily expecting it to be that
Yeah, I know,
good.
right? It's actually rather good.
Yeah,
Oh,
super nutty.
yeah. Well, Manzanilla is one of my favorite
Yeah.
sherries because, well, in fact, let's talk about it rather briefly. And I know we are gonna muscle on in because you've got an awesome drink to start off with this evening. So, sherry, where does it all begin? What is it, and why?
Yeah.
Lead me through it, please.
So I mean, sherry is quite a specific. Obviously, there are other fortified wines which follow, you know, the same sort of maturation process and whatever. But sherry itself has to happen in that little triangle between Jerez, Sanlúcar de Barrameda, and El Puerto de Santa Maria.
Yeah.
So just down in like Andalusia. So good, like such a bit, you know. But if and when we can ever travel again, everyone get yourself there stat.
Yeah.
But yeah, basically the grape it's really hot, and so the kind of grapes that are grown there generally are pretty like don't need much water, fairly austere. So
Yeah.
Palomino, if anyone, you can get table wine Palomino.
Yeah, Kaesler did a nice Palomino,
Yeah,
which was pretty good.
yeah.
I mean, I was.
I mean, I said like they definitely like some of them can be a bit underwhelming. Like I think that the best ones I've had have also had a bit of like almost sherry style aging on them.
Oh, cool. Yeah, dope.
But just not fortified. But that's probably a
That's
whole other
yeah,
conversation.
That's a whole other, yeah. We were talking about wine before and we really got down a rabbit hole, so we'll try not to do that.
And so the whole kind of thing was obviously, as we were saying, like with all wine styles really. It just happened from like what was happening in the environment around there.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, cool. Like stick the sherry in these in their casks, and then this yeast layer would form on top, or does form on top of it, called the floor. And obviously you can stop that happening by fortifying the wine past a certain level of alcohol, and then that just means the yeast layer can't form. But it's actually quite desirable. So, you know, the sherry that we always think about is sort of your grandma's like cream sherry, like really kind of, or like PX or whatever, really sticky and sweet. But there's actually this whole range of sherry that's entirely dry. And the most like delicate of those, your kind of Fino and Manzanilla, are aged entirely under this floor layer, so they're actually really quite old. And so heaps of complexity is developed, but without any kind of like oxidative, nutty, raisiny stuff going on.
Yeah, because from my understanding, and I'm not an expert at this at all, which is why we have Kari here. From my understanding, the layer of floor does protect it from any kind of oxygen contact.
Yeah. So like especially in San Lucar de Barrameda, where Manzanilla is from, this layer of floor is like really quite thick, just from the, like being by the sea and like, you know, the kind of the terroir.
Yeah, a lot of salt
like,
in the air.
Yeah, exactly. And it just like forms this like pretty massive barrier. So there's no air getting in there. And so you just have this wine that can be, you know, 4, 5, 8 years old, that's like still got heaps of just like crisp, clean fruit in a way that, and not even necessarily fruit, I guess, just like crisp, clean, and kind of quite delicate aromas going on in a way that we obviously couldn't just like stick some Savage Bee in a
exactly. We can't stick some Savage Beast in a fucking barrel and just have a good old time. Unfortunately, that doesn't happen with sherry, which is like really exciting. And sherry for me is also a really cool way to add a huge layer of complexity to a cocktail without increasing the ABV.
I'm a pretty lazy bartender, not gonna lie. Like you know, like when people are like tinctures and like, you know, like roto-vapping and whatever, I'm just like, I kind of like just being able to chuck stuff in.
Chuck some sherry in.
And then like sherry is literally that magic ingredient that you can just chuck in, and you suddenly have like all of this complexity. Especially something like Amontillado, which starts off life under the floor, so it has all of those more delicate aromas, but then that gets killed off, and so it starts to have some like real kind of nutty and raisiny things going on. So like, you know, rum and Amontillado are just
match made in heaven. That's the way to go.
So it's definitely like a gonna get out of jail free card for me anytime where I'm like, I feel like it needs something. Can't be bothered making a homemade ingredient, but you know, there's some guys over in Spain that are kind of
done all the work for you. It's the way to go. Beautiful. Andrew K says, "Oh, hi, Cara. Do you know Andrew? Have you met Andrew before?"
Yes, I think so.
Yeah, awesome. Well, you might have.
I might have.
He's a sensational gentleman, does some phenomenal cocktail work on YouTube as well.
Oh, cool.
More like Kirsten.
So YouTube is weird because everyone has different names, right? I might just not recognize the full name.
Yeah, absolutely. Sarah thinks that you look like Kirsten Dunst. So there you go. That's actually really, really lovely. And then Peter says, she's not. Connor... Oh, they're having a bottle of Barbera d'Alba tonight with fancy takeaway. Yes, that's what's up. But had the brambles you dropped off for pre-drinks. Well, enjoy those. They are freaking tasty, so I'm really, really glad that you guys are enjoying them and staying safe and inside. Now, this first drink, we're going to start off with you, which is a weird thing, because usually I'm like, hey, how about I make you guys a drink? And like start by doing
just
that.
really making me work.
Whereas I'm just handballing it. I'm just like, you can take this episode. But what have you got? Like this first drink you were explaining to me before, and it's kind of like it's kind of an Americano.
Yeah, so sorry, I was like, we didn't discuss which one I'm supposed to be doing first. I think starting off there, so I was like, can we do like Americano? You know, but anyway.
It's because Okar is in it, so the Okar.
So obviously this guy, as you know, is awesome, and all about the Australian botanicals, and like, well, I'm sure you putting it with vermouth works as well. I just thought that using a sherry, because it's still that fortified wine and a lot of the same flavors, but without competing botanicals, would sort of like let it do its thing and shine a little bit.
Yeah, let's rock and roll.
So. And I did honestly, like in my head, I had it with maybe a cream sherry because that's a bit sweeter. But then once I tried it, the Oloroso, which is like the sweetest of the dry sherries, actually worked out the best. Yeah. So we're doing a little like half serve. because responsible service here.
Well, we're also drinking 4 different cocktails this evening, so we're trying to be as good as we can be.
So this would be 40 mils of the Okar in each drink normally, but yeah, so 20.
Awesome.
And then
Oh yeah, just yeah, you do. Thanks.
crunching.
So what have you got? Yeah, what do you got here? Talk me through this.
So so basically, once they've made the table wine, I guess, from the Palomino, they taste through and they kind of think like, this one's really delicious and light and elegant and has heaps going on, and that should definitely be aged under floor. Other ones they'll taste and they'll be like, it's a little bit rough, like, especially anyone that like makes, whiskey or whatever, like you just kind of sometimes have those runs that are like,
for sure,
so whatever happens. So if the wine, the base wine comes out a little bit rough, then they'll decide to age it completely without floor. So open to the elements. And again, it's crazy because like obviously your average Oloroso is going to be sort of like anywhere from 4 years plus, which is, most wines that we drink here like would be from the previous vintage at most. When you're kind of drinking it for this price point. I guess.
For sure.
And so yeah, the Oloroso has heaps of like rich and nutty kind of complexity going on.
Because Oloroso, from my understanding, is like the least good sherry. Like in terms of how the sherry makers produce it. Is that
it's the least good base wine.
I
guess, and so then they're like, well, I guess this is kind of shit. So like, let's just see,
let's
if
just see how it goes.
Get any better? and then it does. Like,
absolutely.
Because obviously, like, not all oxidative qualities are necessarily something that you don't want. So I just figured here, as I said, it does have that bitter raisiny sweetness that mimics the vermouth and Americano. But it doesn't have any added sugar. Like it's still a completely dry wine, which just balanced out pretty nicely.
Awesome.
And then just so 10 mils of that. So it'd be 20 mils in a full drink. So just doing a little 10. Honestly, I went probably 15 there because I was chatting and not paying attention. But I'm sure that's not the end of the world.
These things happen. Oh my goodness! I said seriously, and then Siri decided to start talking. Sorry, no, not you. Get away. There we go. What's happened again? Sorry about this. My phone has decided to cease working.
Having all of the technical issues today.
All of the technical issues. It's really bad. Oh my God. Sorry, I said seriously. There we go. Finally, we're back. Sorry about that, guys. My phone's AI decided to come into the stream and just be like, "What do you need?" Because I was introduced to sherry through whiskey. So like a lot of whiskey distillers use Oloroso sherry cask and kind of laud it as like this beautiful cask to use. And my question is, in terms of the actual wine, is in terms of sherry, is that the most sought after? Do you think that like some of the most sought after and most beautiful sherries are Oloroso, or do you think they're more like Fino and Amontillado?
I mean, honestly, like I think that's kind of the awesome thing about sherry is like it really depends on your own like So I do tend to veer more towards the lighter and brighter like Finos and I mean I love Amontillado as well. I know my partner like really Oloroso is kind of, he likes that little bit more sweetness and especially like the older it gets, as with everything, the more kind of like complex and just kind of crazy it can get. So there's just it gets kind of mushroomy, all of those things that you see in really good old wine also, that forest floor and all of the kind of like fun stuff. So can like really old Olorosos and the same with actually PX, even as much as it's sweet, like you can get some crazy like tasting notes from a really old PX because it's just like it's such an intense flavor to begin with, and then when that just kind of is allowed to roll, the way that it comes out is just super, can be actually quite savory sometimes, which is cool. So I don't honestly, I think that's probably a matter of personal opinion. With the Oloroso, I do think with like the sherry, like the whiskey industry, especially with the boom, like there is a bit of a weird thing where like a lot of casks I think are just getting like filled with like pretty shit sherry to then be sent to Scotland to be refilled with whiskey rather than it actually being filled with sherry that anyone's going to drink.
For sure.
So like, and I think you can taste the difference in that in Scotch as well, like where it's actually if anyone like, there's an awesome like Lincolnshire Amontillado cask. There's definitely like a few people that have done pheno cask finishes, and that's so cool to see as well, because it's obviously completely different.
Yeah, and whiskey throughout the ages. So like whiskey in the 80s was much, much fuller because the sherry industry was actually booming, and the whiskey industry was not. So they got these phenomenal sherry casks for very, very cheap, and we're filling kind of okay whiskey into them. But the whiskey from the 80s is off the chain good. It's unbelievable. Anyway, let's get back to the task at hand. My God, couldn't even hear Siri on our side. Also, those cocktails look fab. One of the best parts of working with ex-sherry barrels is the dregs left behind in the cask.
I like it.
The sherry de madre, the actual like juice that's left in there. It's baller. Oh my goodness. So this is an Amer Ocano.
I can't even. I guess like, I'm Ocarno.
Ocano.
It works better if you write it.
Yeah, cool. It definitely does. Well, cheers to you guys at home. So our garnish here is
just some thyme, basically, because like, look how pretty this thyme was, and I had to buy it.
I'm taking this.
And then some grapefruits obviously work with all the nice citrusy elements.
Gorgeous. Let's give it a go. Cheers, guys. Cheers to you at home. Oh my God, I get around that in a heartbeat. That's unbelievably good. Holy shit, write that down on our back labels. That's really good. Oh my goodness, so that was, it would be 40-20 in soda?
Yeah, because obviously it's normally like 30-30, but I just
Oh,
felt
man.
it balanced out a little bit better that way.
Oh,
so you
man.
still just have a nice little like backbone to the oka that kind of like is and honestly like and dries it out a little bit finishing off.
Yeah, it does, but it also takes away some of that like some of the like the fruity stickiness that sometimes people don't like about oka, and it kind of gives it this beautiful nuttiness. I'm really afraid we're going to say drinking words. Like I'm really afraid.
I'm hovering. That's why I'm like I've stuck with about 3 words so far. Like I'm allowed complexity and nuttiness.
Yeah, I've been like, I swear, like Kirsten's gonna be like, that's a drinking word. But yeah, it's gorgeous. The nuttiness is just there. It's right on the front palate, and there's some juiciness. Like there's some dry juiciness, kind of like imagining I'm like eating raisin skins.
Yeah.
Like not the actual flesh. It's just kind of like that tannicness of raisin.
Yeah, I mean that was pretty wanky.
Awesome.
I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, okay, that was pretty bad. Yeah, look, I'm not gonna lie. That was pretty bad actually. That was fairly
like the
terrible.
tasting note of like, you know that one really obscure.
You know that extremely obscure reference which I'm just about to give you? Yeah, this is for raisin skins. I apologize. But that is fantastic.
Thank you.
It's an utterly baller drink. Holy crap. Oh my God. Sorry, I'm going to have another sip because that was unreal. Now, I've got a beverage for you. Now, I've been working on these drinks for actually a little bit longer than I normally would because sherry is not my forte.
Yeah.
And like I have a cursory knowledge of sherry, but I'm learning things tonight as well. Tannicness is a word. Well, I did one for tannicness, and I am sorry about that. So, one thing that I've been noticing throughout the bartending industry is that we're consistently seeing sherry used in more and more like obscure places that I wouldn't expect it to be used in, and one is tiki. Yeah. Like tiki cocktails with sherry in them. So I've embarked on a little bit of an expedition to see if I can find like a cocktail combination that where sherry is the main element of the tiki drink, and I found one.
Oh, you did?
I did, and I'm gonna make it.
Oh, I'm excited about this.
I'm not gonna lie, I have never made this drink before, and I have no idea what it tastes like, but we're just gonna make it happen. So, the main ingredient is manzanilla. I'm using the cheap stuff because it's all I could find. Cara has exceptional taste. I clearly do not, and we talked about this before.
Honestly, like genuine point, I do think that like cheaper sherries work better in cocktails because they're more robust.
Yeah, okay.
So we've definitely had like with phenos and stuff, using this guy sometimes doesn't come through as well as using like a Tio Pepe or like Gonzalez bias. Kind of thing,
just
and
like using the big dogs.
Yeah, as in because like obviously like still super good quality cherry, but like just has a bit more fruit to it rather than just being like, oh, it's all delicate and just gets lost in a cocktail.
Well, it's that whole thing of like rum and whiskey. Yeah. Kind of in the industry, it's like you wouldn't use a beautiful single cask whiskey that's refined and needs time in the glass to open up and oxidize to really reveal its true self. You'll use just something really nice and simple.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I love about sherry is like you can definitely get like especially these little 375ml bottles are awesome because you can just be like, like to try something new. It's not the same as investing in a full size bottle of spirits, which can be like, especially in Australia, a pretty kind of, like checking your bank balance.
yeah, of course. Yeah, it's just like, hey. So yeah, this one we've got 30 mils worth of Manzanilla sherry. We have 15 mil of a rye whiskey. We're using Gospel Rye because they're total champions. We then have 20 mil worth of Okar Island Bitter, or an Amaro of your choice. Make it a red Amaro, so something like, Capoletti, Okar, something like that. That would be the way to go. Then you need 15 mil worth of lemon juice. And then you need 10 mil worth of Orgeat, which is, my personal favorite thing in the world. So nuttiness. You can also, if you want to, make yourself a macadamia Orgeat, you can do that too. It's super easy. Just
so you are supposed to pronounce the E.
Really?
Oh, no, I'm asking because you're like Orgeat.
I say Orgeat.
I've never known how to say it properly.
Orgeat because
I was anxious because I was like doing videos recently and I was like, I'm going to have people being like, that's not how you say it.
So I say Orgeat, because it's French for almond, apparently, according to my girlfriend who is French.
Oh, I feel like we should
But mind you, I sometimes don't listen to her though, much to my dismay and inevitable demise. But yeah, Orgeat is the way that I've learned to pronounce it. But mind you, I'm probably wrong. And then we need some orange blossom water. So you just need about 5 mil worth of orange blossom water in here. And then we're going to give this a shake and we'll see what we are dealing with. That was way less than 5 mil, but I really don't mind. We're going to give this a nice shake and see what we can do. So yeah, ooh, that might have been loud for the microphone, but yeah, tiki and sherry are not two things in my mind that would really like go together.
Yeah, I mean,
Sorry, I'll go over here to shake.
like
You answer
project.
that.
I guess, like to me, it kind of makes sense if you think of sherry as that like balancing dryness. Because obviously tiki is sometimes so over the top, like fruity and things, that just having that nice little like clean, kind of dry and zippy, like almost quite salty depending on what sherry you're using, just kind of coming through and yeah, it's a great back palate finisher.
Yeah, absolutely. But like with what sherry usually is it's bold, it's punchy, it's got a lot of complexity to it that's usually brought about by a menagerie of different rums. Yeah. You can kind of get that from sherry in many different ways, that kind of big juicy complexity.
Yeah, for sure.
Which, I'm kind of into,
Why wouldn't you be?
Well, exactly. So, we are obviously doing half cocktails with these. So, you would serve this in a little glass. There is no garnish for this one. You can, if you want, grate some nutmeg over the top to emphasize some of the nuttiness and also some of the spice that comes through on the sherry. But I have no idea what this tastes like, and we may as well rock and roll. As I said, have no idea what this tastes like. Cheers. Cheers to you at home. Again, let's rock and roll. Oh, yeah?
That's good.
That's yummy.
Yeah.
The orange blossom water comes through quite a lot.
Yeah.
That was probably too much.
I was going to say you probably don't want any more than that.
Yeah, exactly. Like, that was the borderline of what orange blossom water should be.
Which is, like, orange blossom water I'm so scared of, because it's it's one of those, like, like 1-2 drops is fine, and then just like that 2.5, and it's like, no, too much.
it's a noisy cricket of a cocktail element. Like, you put a tiny bit in, and it fucking explodes. Wow, this bar has an all-British lineup. Oh, well, yeah, it kind of does, actually, because I am from the UK and you're from Scotland. So, yes, it does. It has an all-British lineup, funnily enough. So summer punch bowl ideas for your previous cocktail. 100%, Emma, absolutely.
Well, because I was actually, saying that last night. I was like, it's kind of one of those ones that could work in either season, because it's definitely refreshing enough for summer, but it has kind of enough.
That nutty complexity is underneath,
it's good for winter, too.
Absolutely.
But this is also a summer. I mean, I guess you'd have to work out how to do it as a punch bowl,
but
it definitely tastes like that kind of really juicy. Yeah,
and it is, and it's juicy and opulent. Oh, Jesus. Opulent's a drinking word, isn't it? I feel like opulent is I'm going to let you guys call it. But yeah, like, sherry has this beautiful place in terms of giving, depth to cocktails, which you normally wouldn't find there. And I think that's definitely something that I found with the new modern classic that is the London Calling,
Yeah.
which we'll be touching on later. So I'm not gonna
Yes.
I'm not gonna steal the thunder now. We will be touching on that later because it's a really brilliant drink and probably one of my favorite modern classics
Yeah.
that we've been over many
I mean,
times.
I think it's everyone's, to be honest.
Yeah, I know. It's like everyone just went,
don't-
"That's a good drink.
Yeah.
That's fantastic."
Because it still fits in that like realm of, you know, like if someone's never drunk anything other than like margaritas in their life, or
Yeah.
what, like, you know, you can give them. It's not scary. Like you can definitely give them a London Calling, and they'll be like, "This is delicious." I think I like Trojan horsing sherry in a fair amount, where because it's a weird flavor. Like we're discussing this, like there's definitely, and there's such a massive spectrum, and you never really know. But if you like as bartenders can kind of figure out a drink that's like super approachable, and then maybe when someone's on their second one, you like slide a little, you know, like a little snifter of what like the sherry is in there, and let them kind of figure out what that's
and they
just
can
adding
kind of
to
see.
it.
Yeah, they can see what is highlighted within the cocktail
Yeah.
that actually is present in the sherry, which is so exciting.
Yeah.
From a flavor perspective, let us know what your first experience with sherry was at home. If you have a first experience with sherry, I know mine was definitely the back of the cabinet. You know, drinking when I was 16.
The back of the cabinet.
Yeah, the back of the cabinet.
I'm like imagining you like an Alice.
Oh yeah, it's just like opening it up. Here it is. No, sadly, it was like under the sink in like the rumpus room,
Right.
which is where my parents kept all the booze. Which had like it was a weird menagerie of different things. It was like vermouth was in there, Grand Marnier, and sherry, like cooking sherry.
Yeah.
And I used to drink that. Sorry, Mum. Opulent is a not safe for work word. Yeah, well, fair enough. Yeah, and Izzy said shot. Well, yes, but chill out. You know, we'll get there, guys. Hello, Lucas from Brazil has just joined us. Hello, my man. I hope you're having a sensational time. We're talking all about sherry tonight with Cara Divine. So we will be getting into that. But I've got a few questions for you.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, I have. I always have questions for guests, as a lot of you will know. So I've got some questions, and my first question is really this, and it's just one question before we move on to your second drink, and it's what's your favorite cocktail? Now, let me just preface this by saying, try not to sit on the fence.
Yeah.
Like I understand that, like, you know, everyone has. It'd be like, you know, I need to be in the mood for something or something like that. But like, if you walked into a bar and you're like, you know what, I can only order one. This is what I'm going to order. What would it be?
I reckon it's like for consistency, because as you say, I would definitely do all of that. Like,
Of course.
I think like a wet gin martini with a twist would just be like the one that I like. I'm never not in the mood for that. Like, I'm never going to be sad if someone puts that down in front of me.
100%.
Yeah. I mean, and as a little like extension of that, the Jabberwocky is like one that I've been like,
so good. I've been bringing this up. During streams. You know, like a Jabberwocky would be really nice, and people are like, "What's a Jabberwocky?" And I'm like, you know, it's like it's sherry and gin, and it's really good. It's really
but
well
then
put together.
I wasn't sure if I was allowed to be like, as you know, and
Funnily enough, and I know this is such a weird thing, and I know you know this person, so this is really exciting. The very first time I had a Jabberwocky, or a Jabberwock, sorry, was when I was at, it was 5 years ago in Tasmania with Fred Siggins.
Yeah, right.
And Fred Siggins served it to me at a Sullivan's Cove event.
Yeah.
And it was when he just got the job with Sullivan's Cove, and he was like, here's the Hobart number 4 in a Jabberwock. And I remember... This was before my palate was fully formed, and I didn't really have a good didn't have a cursory understanding of what sherry was. And I'm not gonna lie, I walked up to that drink, and I know who Fred is, and his stunning background. He's an incredible palate, wonderful person, makes amazing drinks, but I did not know enough. And I drank it, and I went, "This cocktail sucks." Like I remember drinking it. I'm so sorry, Fred.
But this is what I mean.
Yeah, Fred, if you're watching, I'm so sorry I didn't understand that cocktail. I'm sure I would love a Jabberwock now, but my God, I was like, this motherfucker's crazy. I was
That's
like,
funny.
this is fucking
He
gross.
also was annoyed because I
Oh my God, Fred Siggins is there.
Well, what else do you think he was doing?
Oh, I'm so sorry. Fred, I was young. I was really young. I'm much more well versed now and much older, and I understand that cocktail is beautiful.
It just means like after lockdown is done, you're gonna have to come round to our house. We're gonna have to do another job.
And I'm going to have to apologise to Fred Siggins. My goodness. Good to see you. Again. He's laughing. Thank God. But yeah, it was yes. Yeah.
Well, so
we're going to
he
have to,
actually
yeah.
got a little bit suki because like I did a video about the Jabberwocky and like completely being honest, it's not for everyone.
No.
It's like it's a whole other like jump from a martini, which even a martini can be kind of like especially a wet martini is definitely a heap of flavors that not everyone's always into. And yeah, and I was introduced to this at the attic at the Black Pearl and blah blah blah, and then the video came out and Fred's like, I introduced that to you.
Yeah.
I
was like, I don't remember that. That's a very strange time. So Andrew, I only recently bought a bottle of sherry to expand the range of cocktails I can make. That's really exciting. And sherry's always a fantastic thing to, pop in cocktails. Steve and Mallet, my God, good to see you, Steve. Hope you're having a fantastic night. The most amazing sushi chef you've ever met in your entire life. Sushi Wednesdays at Hats and Tats was particularly good with Steve and Mallet. Yeah, it's a very underrated drink. That is very true. Drinking sherry with Julian White at uni was the first... See, this is what I'm talking about. Cara did some good videos with sherry on YouTube recently. Yes, give it a real good go. Yes, Fred, I'm really sorry about that. I'm so entertained right now. Thanks, Fred. Thank you. I will continuously embarrass myself on the internet for everyone to laugh at until I die. I'm sure it will be the way to go. But thanks for the shout out every time. Oh, absolutely. It's phenomenal, and you are a sensational chef. And yes, Lucas, the Vanguardist man is not getting his credits right now. That is very, very true. But you've got a second drink for us this evening.
I do.
Which is a little bit more, I mean, from my understanding, it's a little bit more balls to the wall. Or
I mean, it's still pretty on like, because that's why I wasn't honestly sure which one you were going to want first.
Yeah, okay.
This one is Fino, so like one of the
Oh,
driest of the sherry. So it's based on the London calling. I called it a Kiwi calling because I wasn't really sure what else to do with it. And basically using golden kiwis, which apparently everybody's like totally on board with already.
Which is the best kiwi.
Well, yeah, so like I had no idea. And actually our friend that works at a bar just, like in that nice little Melbourne neighborhood way, Fred was on his way to the shops. So and Dan was just like, oh, you should check out the golden kiwis. They're like super on point just now. So he brought home a couple and I was like, yes, like this should definitely be what the drink is. Because there's obviously not heaps of really good fruit in, I guess, in season at the moment.
Yes.
So, and again, I was like, oh, like how should I incorporate this? I don't want to cook it. I want to, trying to keep it really fresh and whatever. And I was trying to do all sorts of like fancy thinking. And then Fred was like, just muddle it, man. And I was like, yeah. So
give it a muddle. Give it a muddle.
So we just do a good slice of golden kiwi in there.
Now, we've got a question. What's a golden kiwi?
I don't know. I mean, I literally found out about this yesterday, so you can probably tell me more than...
Well, I don't know much about golden kiwis, to be perfectly honest.
It's just a species of kiwi, right? Like...
Well, yeah, it's a different species of fruit of the same family of kiwi fruit, clearly. But it's a little bit more sweet, funnily enough. But it doesn't quite have the like acid cut through or the like. For me, green kiwis have this like burn on the side.
See, I really enjoyed the acid on this because it's still there and present.
Oh,
but
for sure.
Like not yet.
But it's a little more mellow.
Yeah,
like it's
so
a little
it's
bit
good
more honeyed. So imagine like.
Oh, sorry. So I'm using the everyday gin from
Everyday
Bergen's
gin.
Way. Nice and spicy and citrusy, which is gonna go well here.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's phenomenal. The Brogan's Way dry gin is absolutely wicked. And here I'm going to do my spruik. If you use Henry, my name, at the Brogan's Way checkout, you get 5% off on orders over $60 and free shipping. So that's one bottle of gin. Use the discount code, people.
That's really good to know.
It's absolutely. Yeah, yellow kiwi fruit. Yeah, it's definitely a little more sweet, more honeyed. Honeyed is the term that I definitely use. Golden kiwi is higher in vitamin C and folate. A golden kiwi has about 200 milligrams of vitamin C. Why are you giving me vitamin C facts, man? There's a higher amount of vitamin C as well, so it's a bit more of a superfruit. So in terms of a London calling, I did touch on it before.
Yeah, so London calling, I mean, I would have to do some research, but I would say that it's probably the drink that got sherry back on the map for bartenders. Really.
Yeah.
So it won, I want to say like Beefeater competition in the 2000s.
Yeah, it did. A now very famous bartender is responsible for it. And
Yeah,
I cannot remember their name.
his name either.
but
But, you know, if you're out there, then
I've
thank you.
definitely said it on this stream before, and I've definitely been
Chris
like,
Jepson.
oh, it's yeah. I was
reckon
going
it
to say
might be.
Sam Ross, and then I was like, it's not him.
It's not. It was a
it's not Sam.
London bartender.
Yeah, yeah.
I reckon Chris Jepson.
Yeah, okay.
And anyway, yeah. So it's basically gin, Pinot sherry, and some orange bitters, and then just like sugar and lemon. So like a sour, but with some bitters and a little bit of sherry in there just to add some interest. And yeah, I mean, and then that's what it does. Like a gin sour is delicious, and then if you just add like a little bit of interest that's going to kind of lengthen it out, then what's not to like.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is basically the same as that, but just with some muddled kiwi. So using the Brogan's Way dry gin, and some Pinot sherry, which is one of the driest of the sherries. Some lemon juice and some sugar syrup.
Awesome. Yeah, because Fino is like the lightest in the way I think about sherry.
Yeah,
Like-
I mean, Fino and Manzanilla basically are both the exact same thing, just made in a different place.
Yeah, cool.
So Fino is the inland version, and Manzanilla is the outland.
The coastal. Yeah, there we go. Yeah.
Version.
Yeah.
And so yeah, basically there it's just like with Manzanilla you're gonna see. So Manzanilla actually means chamomile, which I like because it's definitely like you get heaps of those kind of like white flowers, but also with a real kind of saline edge to it. And whereas Fino I find stays a little bit more in the kind of flowers and fruit sort of spectrum.
Yeah, for sure.
So I think I would say probably both around the same body, but one's a little bit more savoury and one's like a little not sweeter, but a little bit more flowery.
Yeah, it's a
and
bit more fruity. It's a bit more fruit driven. Like as we'd say in wine, they're both dry wines, but one's more fruit driven.
Yeah.
And 100%. Amazing for cocktails. Kiwi berries is what we're talking about. Kiwi berries. So Stephen has said that there are tons of different species of kiwi. We just don't really see them very often.
Yeah. Okay.
Which is pretty cool. No, it's always something we have to contend with on this stream when someone's like, I gotta shake this drink now. But you know, shakes aren't too long. Kiwi berries are fantastic. Stephen, tell us more about different kiwi strains, if you know what they are and you know what they if you know what they are and how you make them, that'd be fantastic. But I'm really excited for this. London Calling is probably, as I said before, one of my favourite modern classics. And if you haven't had it before in a bar, my goodness, order it the next time that you are in. Write it down in the notes in your phone, and make sure that even when you're drunk, you can form the words London and Calling, and you'll get a sensational drink, which will be really exciting. And Sarah said, so frustrating, we don't get enough variety of fresh produce in the supermarket in terms of like different kiwis and different fruits. Totally true, of course.
One thing that's been awesome about the whole lockdown thing though is like, and obviously I'm sure this is more true in the metropolitan centres, but like heaps of restaurants and things starting to do like veggie boxes.
Yeah.
You know, like the people that they work with, like the fruit and veg people that'll bring them stuff direct from the farm and just trying to give them an outlet too.
Yeah.
So like we've got a little cafe around the corner from us. There was always just a little cafe and basically overnight turned into like this awesome fruit and veg, like direct from the farm shop.
Yeah, Theodore's in Brunswick has some phenomenal produce that they are pushing out. Lucas, London Calling, not Langdon Colin. London Calling. Although I really liked your London Collins.
As in like the Clash.
Yeah, exactly. Dan, we'll have to get some sherry now. Absolutely, definitely invest in it. It's definitely a great way to go. And speaking of what you are putting as the garnish, that's one thing I've noticed in terms of quality of produce within supermarkets. Mint is awesome.
Yeah.
At the moment, like mint is just like beautiful.
Me, like, I was when I took it out of the packet today and like it in there, I was like, that's gorgeous looking.
That's gorgeous mint. It looks beautiful. Well, here we go. Cheers, guys, again. So it's a Kiwi Calling.
Yeah.
Kiwi Calling, guys. Here we go. And cheers, Fred. I like sherry now. I can't believe I fucking told that story. Oh my god, I'm gonna pay. That's sensational. No, that's off the charts. That's unbelievable. That's unbelievable.
You said you were going to dial it up a bit, man.
No, man, that's off. Like, the nose is gorgeous. It's that soft kiwi fruit. God, muddling just works, doesn't it?
It does. Bring back the 80s.
Bring back the muddle,
In
man.
so many ways. I mean, I'm glad that, like, there's only going to be, obviously, if this was on your list and you were, like,
Yeah.
constantly dumping out muddled.
Yeah.
Also, those kiwis are, like, $2 a piece or something, which
Yeah,
is
for
obviously
sure.
not probably
Yeah, a bit
financially
problematic.
viable for most buyers. But yeah,
Yeah.
I think that the main thing is the clogged sink for when you do muddled drinks, and
Yeah.
you're, like, just tipping out. But
No, that's really good. Guys, make this at home. Grab yourself a kiwi and some Fino sherry, along with some gin, some lemons, and a bit of sugar syrup. That's stunning. Wine Boyo, it's okay, sherry is gross. Sherry is not gross at all, but if you think it's gross, that's totally fine. You did ask a question before about what's that whiskey that's not peated and is really smooth, and to be honest with you, I can't answer that question for you. That encompasses a lot of different whiskey, but I'm sure you will find it, and if you give us a bit more information, I'm sure we can get that done for you. But that's phenomenal. That's a phenomenal drink.
thanks, pal.
That's probably one of the
I like
best
it.
drinks we've had on this fucking stream. And that's not me dialing this up.
Do you
This
know,
is
like,
sensational.
I'm not gonna lie, like last night I just like, this was like a one goal, just like, you know, and you're just like, oh fuck, I nailed that.
Yeah.
But I think it's about the produce and about, because it's all
Oh,
obvious
man.
proportions.
I have to rethink a few base principles. That's phenomenal. Yeah. Well, I don't even want to make my last drink now. I don't even want to make my last drink because my last drink is a stirred down little number, a twist on a rapscallion.
Yeah, nice.
And a rapscallion, for those of you who do not know, is a beautiful drink encompassing some blended whiskey, some peated whiskey as well, some Pedro Jimenez sherry, and I do believe some orange bitters off the top of my head from memory. Do you know?
I'm so bad with that.
Yeah.
Like I'm always like, like if I look at
Yeah,
a recipe,
yeah.
then I can make it well. But like, beyond your 20 ones that you know off the top of your head.
Yeah.
not.
Absolutely. It's a really lovely like after dinner cocktail, but I wanted to make it a little bit more, I don't know, interesting. I wanted to make it with clear spirits essentially. So this evening we got this smoky number. Michelle, I tuned in too late. Will the recipes be posted after? I'll make sure that they're posted on the Restream chat right at the end, so you know what they are. I'll make sure to write them down while the stream is still going, so you'll get all the recipes right at the end. The last little comment will make sure that is done for you. This is all my fave booze in one. Well, get ready because my goodness, tonight we are using a little bit of mezcal. So this is Brujo number 1. Brujo are a smaller producer in Oaxaca, imported by the wonderful guys at Casa de Vino. If you haven't been to Casa de Vino, it's a spirit paradise, especially for whiskey drinkers and cognac drinkers.
Because they're also doing the little tastings every Thursday, for lockdown. If you're not getting out and getting to spend money in a bar where you normally would,
Exactly.
it's so much fun. Hey, because a lot of them can
awesome.
be like a little bit like, oh yeah, like more talk about whiskey, you know.
They're
but like,
snooty.
Yeah,
They're
but
snooty.
Jorge's just makes it like a proper laugh.
Yeah, Jose is no, it's all good. Jose is a sensational human being, and he does a wonderful job, and their business is phenomenal. It's a sensational little takeaway, so do pay them a visit. This Brujo is fantastic. We are going to be using a little bit of that. We're also going to be using this bad boy here, the Brogan's Way Passion Fruit Husk Gin. So this is going to be our base. Again, I'm not sure if this is going to work, but we're going to give it a red hot go. So we need 45 ml worth of the Passion Fruit Husk Gin, and then we need 10 ml worth of mezcal. And so for this, we're using the Brujo number 1. It's gorgeous. It's actually a really light. We tasted it before. What did you think of it?
Yeah, I hadn't had it, and it was awesome. It had all that, like, like enough savory and smokiness to know that you're drinking mezcal, but not like a punch in the face at all.
Yeah.
Which is obviously, again, usually much easier to work with in cocktails because, rather than trying to, it can be a hard spirit to work around. Because it's a very definite, like, it knows what it is.
Yeah, 100%. And here we go. We're using some sweet sherry on this one. So this is Pedro Jimenez that we're using. So the sweetest of the sherries. No, I said, please recommend a Scottish whiskey. Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. Because you have a Scottish girl there. Yeah, please recommend a whiskey that is not peated and super smooth.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean,
well, what
like,
do you think?
Obviously, the whole generalization of regions is like a little bit passive, but I still think it's a good idea to look at Speyside to begin with. I really like Dalwhinnie is really good. Glenfarclas. Again, it kind of depends if you prefer like quite heavily sherried or more sort of tropical fruits. But yeah, my Ben Riach, actually the 10-year-old, I hadn't had in a while, and that was just like for like super like easygoing, heaps of fruit. Actually, add a Casa de Vino's tasting just to circle back round there. And that was awesome. The Ben Romac organic is really good as well.
It's very, very nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, Balvenie has always held a special place in my heart.
And also, if you have a bit of a sweeter tooth, obviously they kind of have their rum cask and stuff as well.
Yeah,
if
the
that,
Caribbean
if that's
cask.
like if that kind of can bring you in a little bit if whiskey's not always necessarily your thing. Same with Auchentoshan and 3-wood. It's like actually just like Christmas pudding.
Yeah,
in
for sure.
In a bottle.
Yeah, Auchentoshan is triple distilled as well, so it's
Nice and
very,
light.
very light in terms of its actual malt. It's quite creamy. The only issue I find with Glenfarclas in terms of smoothness is if you're not a fan of peat, they're the last distillery in Scotland to still use direct fire stills throughout everything that they do. So you do get a little bit of smokiness, and it's residual smoke that will come through.
I guess it's not peated.
Yeah,
But
it's not peat. But
if you're sensitive to
you're
it,
very
then
sensitive,
that's a very fair
It's
point.
the only thing I'd say about Glenfarclas, where like people are like, I don't like anything smoky, and it's like, oh, you want something very, very clean. Glenfarclas can sometimes be problematic. Very, very rarely though. So here we go. Here we go. I'm gonna stir this beverage down now. So we've just got the 3 elements in here. So we've got the passion fruit husk gin, the mezcal, and of course the Pedro Jimenez. We're going to stir this down over ice, and what we've got in the glasses is a bit of Ochre Gold. So we are washing these drinks, washing the glasses down in Ochre Gold to give us a whole bunch of honey, and we'll see what we're cooking with here. Oh yeah, I think that'll do. And we're going to truck it out. Yeah, I think this is going to be okay. I think this is actually going to be pretty good. I'm not going to lie. Glenfarclas is super round, 100%, Lucas. It really, really is. So we're splitting this between the two of us.
I also had a nice, like, Glenfarclas is a family-run distillery, and so I kind of had one of those nice tours there where it was like, just like the owner's auntie or something being like, I just live here and I show people around, and like, it was good.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. And some of their single casks, especially like the family casks, are unbelievable. If you want to spend a bit of money, that's definitely the way to go. Smokiness is okay. Did the Celts make whiskey? Is it the Celts? Is it the Celts or the Celts?
Yeah, the Celts.
The Celts, sorry, my apologies.
I mean, like obviously you got Irish whiskey as well.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's really testing my history in terms of like, I know that I'm Celtic like way back when, but I'm not 100% sure when. I mean, I think they were distilling from like pretty early on.
The 1500s probably.
Yeah.
The first written taxation records of people distilling whiskey in the UK is somewhere in the early 1600s. That's the first time they wrote it down.
Yeah.
So they've been distilling for a long time. The Irish definitely had it first. Then it moved over to Scotland. Yeah. The old adage is that the Irish started distilling and the Scottish perfected it, which I happen to agree with.
There's some good Irish whiskies out there.
No, there absolutely are. But Ireland was definitely a massive hub for distillation in the late 1800s, and unfortunately, a lot of taxation and, of course, famine prohibited them from distilling on a large-scale basis, which is when Scotland took over. And there's a massive amount of history surrounding that. But it's kind of ancillary to the point. We've got a fantastic, fingers crossed, a fantastic cocktail in front of us. But here we go. Cheers. There's no name for this at all. And we'll see what we're cooking with.
I always love these little glasses. That's good. That's real good.
Oofed Nelly. Oofed Nelly. Take a shot of insulin and tell me that's a good drink. That's very nice.
Yeah.
Oh, if you like smoky drinks, if you like something with a good amount of fruit.
Is it just like keeps going.
Oh, and the finish just the mezcal doesn't overpower it, but it gives it this beautiful, vegetal sweetness. Jesus, and it really does. It's really gorgeous. Beautiful vegetal sweetness. The finish is fantastic. It's lengthy. It's generous. Some would say if we're describing wine, it's a generous finish.
Because it's got a really nice mouthfeel as well. Like
yeah, it's quite oily.
Yeah.
And the Okar Gold, even though yes, we did tip it, R.I.P. I'm so sorry about that. Does give you this like edge of honey and gentian as well, which is really quite gorgeous.
Yep,
I don't know. What do you think?
Like, well, that's not fair. You just said all
I
of
know.
it.
I'm sorry about that. But yeah, what do you think of it? Does the Pedro Jimenez shine through?
Well, I think because honestly, like I'm honestly quite scared of PX and cocktails. Like when I see it on a menu and stuff, I'm always kind of like, oh, because yeah, like it's intense, like it's full on, and like it definitely doesn't always play nicely with other flavors.
For sure.
Whereas the ratio that this is, like, and I think having all those kind of more savory elements in there, I reckon the PX comes like through more in the mouthfeel and just kind of rounding it all out rather than necessarily being able to pinpoint like that I'm definitely drinking a PX cocktail. You know? What I mean?
The PX is kind of like the glue that holds the drink together rather than being the mainstay of it. I think the mezcal definitely shines through, and you do get that fruity passion fruit like burst at the front. That's kind of finished off with a little bit of honey and the Pedro Jimenez. But it's not
That is
not
a
bad.
solid after dinner sipper.
Well, cheers everyone at home. Cheers indeed. Because my God, cheers.
I'm
Yeah.
like, I need
Well,
to
you're
finish
dual
this
wielding.
one. I'm gonna finish it.
Yeah. Bottoms up. There you go. Punch it! That's the way. It's a boozy Wednesday for all of us here. Cheers again. Cheers to all of you at home. I hope you've moved on to your second drink of the evening, and if you haven't, do imbibe.
Responsibly, of course.
Yes, responsibly, of course. No name for this. No name for this at all is my favorite cocktail. Thank you. In fact, that's what I'm calling this. No name for this at all. Always impressed by the sort of detailed knowledge Henry has floating around in his head.
I know.
And
I'm
somehow
like,
manages to recall reliably.
Please tell me more about the history of my country.
No, whiskey was my first love.
Yeah.
So, actually, Calvados was my first love, oddly enough.
Yeah, okay.
But that was simply because at the time I'd opened a fromagier, and I was like, maybe we should pair spirit. And they were like, yeah, haven't you ever tried Calvados and cheese? And I was like, no. And then they were like, here's some Don Fonte. And like, let's give it a go.
Again, in that way of like we were talking before, the start about terroir, like it just makes sense. Like the food from regions match the booze from regions. Like that's just
positively. That's what it's all about. Sean Lecornu? Do you know him?
I don't think
You don't?
so,
Well,
but-
Sean, hello!
Yeah.
I don't think I hope we've met before, Sean. I hope you're having a sensational evening. Thank you for chiming in. Made a couple of cocktails the other day where I subbed in Okar Gold for some European liqueurs, and it went really well. Yeah, it definitely, I think it has some usage.
Yeah.
I mean, you've seen it for the first time today.
Yeah, and we're just having a chat about that because it's good. Like it has all of those like awesome, almost like little bit more kind of eucalypty kind of flavors that I always get from like New World stuff, but like super rounded out by the honey and the gentian, and so it's a really nice balance. Yeah,
it definitely has some good balance in there, and you can sub it in for gentian and yellow chartreuse. Fred Siggins, Calvados and cheese, drool 100%. And I could go on about Calvados for a little while, simply because it is my first love, and telling the difference between Pédoge and Don Fonte, and then Central Calvados, but I fucking won't because it's ridiculous and no one actually gives a flying fuck.
You said you weren't allowed to get dense anymore.
Yeah, no density. Zero density. Well, maybe 2% density, but we are not going to get into that. But what we are going to get into is my second favorite game of the evening. Cue the basketball sirens. It's time for What's That Bitter Taste in My Mouth? Here we go. Ooft, mein Gott. There we go. Whiskey sour and old fashioned. Which is better? Ooft. Oh, sorry. We got some questions. I do apologize, but yeah. Whiskey sour or old fashioned?
I have
What do you
to,
think?
I prefer whiskey sour. If
Yeah.
I'm going like down the old fashioned vein, I'm a Manhattan girl.
Ooh,
I don't
okay.
drink old fashions very often.
Yeah, okay.
But that's
Yeah. I personally out of the two prefer an old fashioned.
Yeah.
Unless you're using Wonder Foam as your emulsification agent.
Okay.
The only reason for that is that I find egg white in whiskey sours leaves that like wet dog smell.
So this definitely like I have one generally, but
Yeah.
I'm also getting that like that little bit old where I get the little heartburn. Like I can have like one or two citrusy cocktails, and then I start to be like, can just feel it sitting here. And so like I'm generally more of an all booze kind of style, but yeah, I don't know, like I completely and wholeheartedly like bow down to old fashions but they're just I never order them. Hey, like
yeah, no, me neither. I never order an old fashioned anymore, unfortunately. Like I'm always ordering, something a little bit different. Maybe a Boulevardier, maybe something. I'm also ordering like Gibsons or perfect martinis. That's kind of more my vibe these days. But change with the times, really.
Yeah. But I mean,
Depends.
but there is an awesome cocktail, and obviously, like, people love it so much. It's one of those, like, there's certain things where you're like, I need to give my bartender card over for that. Like, I don't really like aniseed hay.
Yeah, for sure. 100%.
And I have to be like, I'm sorry that I'm not super interested in your absinthe.
It's like, yeah, cool, your absinthe rinse. Yeah, great.
Yeah.
I'm actually a massive fan of absinthe, so.
Well, I mean, and that's what I mean. It's just like there's just certain things that are.
It's super personal.
It's a safe space, like
absolutely. Now, what's that bitter taste in my mouth? If we've never played this before, which you haven't, we always start with the question of what do you perceive? What's in the glass? Which is always the way to go. So, what do you get? Oh, this is a bit weird. This is like rooty.
It is.
It's quite root-driven.
Like a little bit cool.
Yeah. Yeah, but like cocoa if it was a potato. Like, it's like if it was under the ground. Like, it's very, like, undergroundy. You know what I mean? Like,
I do. I'm struggling to get my head around it. It's annoying. It's doing that thing where I'm like, it reminds me of something, but I can't quite put
sure. Like it really reminds me of like almost like burning wattle seed in many ways. It's something recently that I've smelled in my house. Yeah. Because I was trying to cook wattle seeds. Have we tried Mancino's onion? No, but that sounds like a really cool Gibson riff. Yeah. For sure. Lucas, tell us all about it. I want to hear. Nothing like a bitter root in your mouth. That's for sure, Stephen. Oh, dear me. Sometimes I wonder whether I should continue on doing this stream. Some of these existential moments get to me. But yeah, it is quite like undergroundy. Yeah. That's weird. It's a weird fucking thing.
And kind
of like menthol. Is it menthol?
Cardamom.
Cardamom, yes, huge.
I just said cardamom.
Cardamom. I think you'll find the Latin is cardamom, indeed. Yeah. Stellacello Amaro, London. It is not. No, it's not. Cacao is a potato. Sounds like truffle. Nocturne. It's not nocturne. Guys, come on. This is our Amaro for the evening, just in case you haven't seen it. So you will see that it is it's quite clear. It's quite dark as well. So the next question that we always ask ourselves after we've said what do we perceive is it old world or new world? We classify old world as being continental Europe. Yeah. Everything outside of that, UK included, is new world.
I mean, I just feel like now that I've pinpointed the cardamom, I'm getting that so much in a way that I don't think would be used in the old world.
Okay.
I don't know. Like, is that a?
I don't know. Well, I do know. No, but it's interesting to hear. It's like, okay, well, we don't think that this is going to be. So you think this is new world? I think
this is new world.
Think this is new world?
Based on that, like, very massive generalization.
I love it. Massive generalizations are my game in this game. So you want to lock that in? New world?
Yeah, let's do it.
It's old world. And it's there's a really simple explanation as to how you can work it out just through sight. Yeah. So old world Amaro, generally, there are one or two very few exceptions, is translucent. It's actually clear. Yeah, okay. They filter it. whereas New World tends to be unfiltered.
Yeah.
So you can actually tell from this Old
Yeah.
World just by looking at it, which
Yeah.
is a strange thing. On the nose, you're probably right. Like, there's a lot of New World Amara that actually do smell very, very similar to this. But it is, in fact, Old World. Now, do you think it is from France, Germany, or Italy?
Can I like taste yet? Or we
Yeah,
just
please.
tell
Yeah,
me?
go ahead. Shove it in your face. Yeah, please. Go right ahead. Yes, the clearliness. That's the way to go. Clear means Old World. That's the way, guys. I love that you guys are learning. It's fantastic. Because I didn't know that before I started this live stream either.
German?
Mm. What makes you say that? Oh my god, it's a spice bomb.
Yeah,
Jesus.
because it's so again.
Oh. Oh, Jesus. Sorry, I'm just going to pop this onto, I'm going to share to IGTV. Sorry, just give us a second. We're dealing with Instagram again. I'll deal with that later. We're just going to pop this onto Instagram one more time. Sorry about this.
Oh, but then it's cloves. Hey,
It's clove, yeah.
it's not cardamom. It's clove.
Oh, yeah, clove is the massive finisher on that. Oofed.
So maybe. Yeah, I guess I'm just thinking German. It's like
Yeah, German.
pork and sauerkraut, and
Yeah,
this
cool.
would actually kind of go, in the same way that you would like stud a pork roast
Yeah.
with cloves. This would go
Yeah,
together
100%.
well. That's like the only thing I'm basing it on.
That's a fascinating reason that you chose that. No, it's not Jägermeister, sadly. But it is
I would have known that straight off the bat.
Yeah, but guess what? You're totally right. It is German.
Yeah.
It's 100% German. Do you know what it is? Now that we've said it's German.
Oh, I'm not. I honestly, I'm a bit. Other than the Amaros that we normally know.
Yeah.
I'm not awesome at it. So.
Well.
Is it the one that you get at the airport in like the little?
It is the one that you get at the airport in the little ones. It is
Underberg.
Underberg.
Yeah.
Underberg, welcome to the original Rheinberg Herbal Digestive. I really wish Christoph Waltz was here to introduce it. Yeah, Underberg. There we go. And it's quite minty.
Yeah.
Like I get like quite a bit of like menthol, and then finally like the finish is this beautiful spice, which is just unbelievable. Like if I can imagine like this and maybe like our Ribery gin from Applewood, which has tons of clove in it anyway, would make like a really cool like old fashioned variant. We added this and like a bit of sugar, a bit of gin.
It's also just like not that sweet. Hey.
No,
like,
it's very bitter.
As in, obviously, all Amaros are bitter, but like mostly there's a bit of a, this is like really, really quite.
Yeah, this is like balls to the wall.
Yeah.
This is super heavy. If bartender a good is being a bartender a good way to pick up? How many flags have you taken from the job? Not many, to be honest. That was a question from Instagram.
I mean,
Oh,
I think
God.
honestly, it's probably being a female bartender is better if that's what you want to do. But
Yes, if that's your game, I suppose that's the way to play. But yeah, oh yeah, Peter, you tried to explain Underberg. Yes, I thought that was Unicorn off the top of my head, Peter, that you were trying to explain. But yeah, Underberg. Yeah, it's a very, very spicy Amaro. That is for sure.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's I'm wary of taking another sip. It's like getting punched in the face with a giant clove that's angry
I
with
feel
you.
like we might just have to do it.
Yep. Chin chin, everybody.
But yeah, that clove is
Oh,
angry.
yeah.
That clove is angry with us.
Oh, it's like a clove where we murdered their family. Oh my god. It's very intense. Got some intensity. That is for sure. Oh, bartending in this climate is probably not the best way to pick up. That is very true. Yeah, no, it is. It's really not.
Can confirm.
Yeah, can confirm. But are we ready? Are you ready?
I actually forgot what this part's going to be.
Ah, you did.
But
That's the joy of this entire stream. So, if you haven't watched this next part before, this is Funniest Home Cocktails, or Australia's Funniest Home Cocktails, where we go to the wonderful library of Janae Neesongers from Mahalo Drinks. Now, this is not Janae's fault. We are not making fun of Janae. We are making fun of the recipes. It's basically where we pick a terrible, terrible recipe, make it in the bar, and then give it some tasting notes. If it's so intense, how would you mix it? Oh, Michelle. Well, Michelle's asked a really good question before I could get going.
I honestly have no idea. Like, I would have to have a strong think about that. I think the only kind of anytime that you're dealing with any intense flavor, like almost the same with PX and stuff, is use it in like almost like bitter type.
Yeah.
Like 5 mils or whatever, and then you can kind of work out from there. But yeah, I would not be just like chucking that in.
Yeah,
Well, I mean, you said that maybe with one of the apple would.
Yeah, maybe like in an old fashioned, you use 5 mil of it just to give you this really intense. Or funnily enough, maybe like in a Godfather.
Yeah.
Like a Godfather, some amaretto, some whiskey, and then a little bit of Underberg might actually give you some spiciness.
Spices.
Yeah. Tell you what you could do: chuck it in some mulled wine.
Oh, save you. Save you a heap of money on cloves.
Don't worry about getting any spices at all. You'll have enough in the Underberg. You could definitely chuck it in there with a bit of rum and some mulled wine. Yeah. That'd do the job, because Jesus Christ, the clove is angry with me. It's actually burning the back of my throat. Oh, yeah, Lucas has just said a wash. Yeah, a wash in a glass would be really, really interesting as well. So yeah, definitely some ways to use it. But going on with our next piece, if you will, it is the time. It's the place. Oh my God, this always scares me every single time we do this. It's time for Australia's Funniest Home Cocktails. I do that every time.
How do you practice it at home?
Sometimes in the shower, mostly. Why, is it good? Is it getting better? Yeah, it's good. All right, yeah, terrific. So, oh my God, I didn't want that. Really? No. Yeah, it's that one. Sorry, my apologies. I went to the wrong drink, which is never a good thing. So, just give us two moments for some technical difficulties again. My God, yeah, don't worry about that.
You have to worry about it for at least.
I do. Yeah, I've got to worry about it for 4 seconds. That is for sure. So tonight, we are going to be embarking on a wonderful quest, but we are using mezcal for this little bad boy, because I don't think we've done this one before. At least I'm 90% sure we have not. And it's the tried and tested. It's the margarita that we are making this evening. So what I will do is I will. Oh dear me. Yeah, do we have any lime, out of curiosity?
We can do kiwi.
Oh, yes, we do. We've got some lime. So we do need some fresh lime juice for this one, but this is going to get pretty darn terrifying. I'm not going to lie. You're not selling it. No, well, it's pretty intense, to be perfectly frank, Michelle. Or if you're talking about the segment that we're about to do, yeah, of course I'm not selling it, because this is like unmitigated bar torture for me. This is not my first rodeo with this particular thing. So here we go. We're going to need one of these as well. Now, since you haven't done this before, what we usually do is we let you watch the video.
Yeah.
Now,
and then I have to recreate it? Or
well, here's the thing. We had a complaint last episode that I didn't let the bartenders try to make it as she went.
Right.
Now, if you're game, we would like you to make it as she goes, as quickly as she goes. Now, I'll try to set it up for you as quickly as possible, because you are going to need this.
So this was actually sweet and sour mix is honestly not something that I've ever seen before. Like I've obviously heard about it so much. I didn't realize it was available in Australia, but it is.
And
it has like recipes on the back of the bottle.
Yep.
So that's good.
Look, if we go through so many episodes with no vaccine, we've got some more on the back of this bottle. So we will be ready to go. So yes.
But also, like, if we ever get to the point where we literally can't access fresh citrus anymore, like I'm sure we've got plenty of stockpiles of this in your local Dan Murphy's.
I mean, this is very true. Sarah says it wasn't a complaint now. But what we will do is we'll let you watch the entire video, and then you need to recreate it.
Okay.
Because I think that's just a better way of doing it, personally. So I'm going to fill you up some lime juice, because apparently you need some lime juice as well. Actual sweet and sour, here it is. We got the faux shiz stuff. So I'm going to let you watch this. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just going to make sure that everyone can see this. There we are. That's the one. That's what we need. Here we go, guys. So listen closely. This is what you need to do.
Hi, I'm Janae from Mahalo.com, and I'm going to teach you how to make a margarita. A basic margarita requires tequila, triple sec, sweet and sour, and lime juice. And then, of course, you need some fresh limes for a garnish. We're gonna go ahead and put all of our ingredients into a shaker glass filled with ice. We don't want to pour them directly just into the glass. It's important to get everything nice and shaken up, blended, so that you're not missing any of the flavors in every sip that you're getting of your margarita. So we're gonna go ahead and get started. So we have our shaker glass. We're gonna pour 1.5 ounces of the tequila into the shaker glass. And then we're gonna pour 1/2 ounce of our triple sec, our little orange flavored liqueur. Then we're gonna go ahead and put 1 ounce of the sweet and sour in. And then all we're gonna need is a splash of the Rose's lime juice. Now for those of you who like your margaritas maybe a little sweeter and you're not sure about the lime juice, or maybe you don't like sweet and sour that much, another variation that I sometimes like to do is maybe a little bit about like 1/2 ounce of the sweet and sour instead of 1 ounce, and 1/2 ounce maybe of the Rose's lime juice, and a splash of orange juice. That's an option that you can do as well, but you don't have to, of course. So we go ahead and put a splash of the Rose's lime juice. So just to recap, so you didn't forget, we had our tequila, our 1.5 ounces of our tequila, 1/2 ounce of our triple sec, the sweet and sour, and the Rose's lime juice. We have those all mixed up right here in our shaker container. So we're gonna go ahead and shake it up, get it nice and chilled. Once you feel that it's cold enough for you, you're gonna go ahead and take the top off and strain your contents into your glass filled with ice. As you can see, it perfectly fills it up if you do your ounce pours correctly. And we're gonna go ahead and garnish it with a lime, and it is all set to drink. And that is how you make a margarita.
Alrighty, for everyone at home, I'm so sorry. That is not how you make a margarita. We're just going to be straight up about that. Kill it with fire.
I'm ready. I reckon it's going to be delicious.
Well, we need to fill up these glasses with ice. I think that's our first thing that we need to do. Stephen has just said, I need her to sell me 1 ounce of weed. Yeah, okay, fair enough. Sarah Wilcox, thank God Henry listened to you. Last time I said anything, he ignored me. That is not true. I listen to you a lot. For the love of God, why? Absolutely. Actual sweet and sour, yes. I love that you can get this version of margarita in any dive bar in the US. Yeah, you really can. This is... Oh, Jesus.
And I'm about to make it for you, baby.
Oh, here we go. Oh,
also,
God.
Sarah, I feel like you might enjoy that when we were talking about the, like how this episode was going to go. Henry was like, oh, so like, just opinions, you don't have to have any facts. And I was like, oh, so I get to be a man for an hour.
Yeah, that was a really good call. Yeah, and then I was like, you know way more about Sherry than I do, so I'll probably ask you, what's Sherry? And then you can just mansplain it to me. Yeah. So, right. Very excited. Oh, God. So, here you go. Please, 1.5 ounces.
So, I've never free-poured in my life.
Here we go. Just 1.5 ounces of what you fucking hell.
1.5 ounces of this.
Awesome.
And then
need a half ounce.
1/2 ounce of
beautiful marionette.
Delicious marionette. And then what was it? Sweet and sour mix.
Yeah, sweet and sour.
1 ounce.
Yep. And then it was like a dash of Rose's lime juice.
That was probably a little bit less than 1 ounce, but that was deliberate.
I mean, really? Yeah. Oh, that was deliberate. You're splitting it between those two. You have to do this as well. So here we go. This might not be terrible. The last time we were here on Wednesday, we actually made, on Monday, we made a pretty damn good drink. So here we go. Dear God. Dear God Almighty. Beautiful. Alrighty.
I haven't garnished it
Okay,
yet.
yeah, my bad. Yep, please go right ahead.
Because I got my little lime wedges ready.
Oh, this is the most Mahalo thing. The most Mahalo thing we have ever done. Huge round of applause for Kara. Thank you so much for being game enough to do this. We always appreciate it. Here we go. Cheers to everyone at home. God, I hate doing this part.
It's not the worst margarita I've ever had in my
That's
life.
actually not too bad. That's not too bad. Like, that wasn't as bad as I was expecting. I also think the mezcal is kind of holding it together.
The mezcal is good, and honestly, I did go a little bit lower on the sweet and sour than I probably should have.
Oof. But that's really good. That's actually, that's well put together. I mean, that's not bad.
Mate, I feel like she's, I think that she's actually a bit of a modern day bar hero.
Oh, she
nowadays.
is.
It's like,
absolutely
man, like
is.
we all have been in those situations where you're like, I kind of know how to do this better, but like you get told how to do it, and the brand's paying you, and you're just like, yeah sure. But I reckon she's like, yeah.
I think she's done a remarkably good job with this particular drink, and to be perfectly frank, it's not quite as bad as the Champagne Rita, which is where I nearly spat it all over Ben from Brogan's Way. So, you know, we've had some rough times in this bar, but that's not half bad at all. Well, that is it for this evening. Thank you so much for joining me this evening, Cara. No, you're an absolute champion. Please go and follow on YouTube Behind the Bar with Cara Devine. There's some fantastic, knowledgeable episodes on there covering a whole host of different topics. So please go give it a follow. Go to the Brogan's Way website. Use the code Henry. It gives you 5% off at the checkout and free shipping for orders over $60. Stay safe. Stay sane. This Friday coming up is episode 69. And because I'm a child, we are doing a little bit of a hot and tasty episode all about smoke and fire and its usage in drinks with the wonderful Andrew Joseph from New Gold Mountain and Lily Black. So do join us for that. We will be going live at 7 p.m. There's a little change to the time, so not at 6:30, it's 7. So please do join us for that. We will also be doing a Mahalo drink totally based on sex for episode 69, which is going to be a lot of fun. So please join us then. Again, Cara, thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's been an absolute pleasure. We will see you next time on Friday. And now enjoy this animated Steve Irwin saying, oh yeah, that's nice. Enjoy.
Oh, that's nice.
The sacred stone.
Oh, this you crazy mother. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
You'll never have the sacred stone.
Oh, this you crazy mother.